Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Super Suckhour with me, yours truly, the Super Sucklord. Sorry I ain't got to you for a while, but I've been pretty busy, but you're always in my thoughts, and when I finally have something to say, I do my best to get it out onto the public airwaves. So thanks for being so patient during the long hiatus. If you would like to see more of this type of material, you can always go over to my motherfucking Patreon and give me some fucking money to make it a little bit more worthwhile for me. But for those of you who have been paying on a monthly basis, thank you for that. I'm here on the sofa with a new face to the show, but an old friend of mine, Mr. Fresh Ricky D, Mr. Erik D. He purveys a used book selling operation called Left Bank Books. Is that
Left
correct?
Bank Books, leftbankbooksny.com. We do used and rare books.
Yes, a lot of sexy material there for sure.
Sexy material. 19th, 20th, 21st century literature, art, music, film,
photography, some racy stuff.
Erotica, the works.
Yeah, check it out. He's definitely the man for that. Now, you may be new to the show, but you are one of my oldest friends, and this is the review of the Solo film, and you are my OG Star Wars buddy.
That's true.
We've been friends since Empire Strikes Back, and we always used to play Star Wars figures. You would come over the house and play, and I remember you were always fun to play with, because a lot of kids just like to bash the ships together, but you were into the narrative aspect of the toys, and I always appreciated that. And we used to geek out on Star Wars together way back before it was cool. So now here we are at the top of the cool shit mountain, and we're going to give an extensive review of the Solo film. Normally, I don't like to just put the video out immediately after the film. I know there's a lot of hot takes out there where people give their review within 15 minutes of watching the movie, and there's plenty of that material out there. And then there's always the guys that do the deep analysis with the spoilers and the Easter eggs and everything like that. There's enough of that material there too. This is not exactly that. I like to see a Star Wars movie a couple of times,
Let it marinate,
really study it, really get my head straight about it, and really get to know the movie before I just put out some fucking hot take. I like to read reviews, and I like to look at some of the support materials.
Digest it all and sort of synthesize the different ways of looking at it. Yeah. I keep coming up with cooking metaphors. Stew on it, chew on it.
Hey man, that's fine. It's definitely applicable. So I'm 4 in now for Solo, and you're 3. Just saw it for the 3rd time yesterday, and we're going to just kind of unpack it. I usually have a format for these type of things. I have a list of notes and just things I want to discuss, and then I'm going to smoke a joint, and then we can freeform.
Freestyle, yeah.
I am going to say straight up that I really like the movie a lot.
Yeah, I'm with you. 100%.
It's probably one of the best anthology Star Wars, or best of the new set of films.
Yeah, I agree, and one of the things I wanted to do, which we don't have to do at the top of the hour, we can do it at the bottom, but I would be curious to hear just sort of your ranking overall. Maybe you've done this on
Let's do it now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Of the whole of the...
All the movies?
Yeah.
Oh, let's wait till the end of that. For the new, from Force Awakens on, I'm going to say I would put Force Awakens and Rogue One at the top.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one I like better. Then I would put Han Solo, and then Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I went from hating Last Jedi to thinking I liked it back to hating it again.
Yeah.
I saw it like 5 or 6 times, and I sort of figured out what I think parts of it are brilliant. I think parts of it are terrible.
Right.
But I sort of managed to get somewhere in the middle, and then I read the novelization of it, and it made me hate it again.
Oh, really?
Well, usually when you read the book, it sort of fills in a little bit of what you might have missed, and it just belies how poor the plot was.
Yeah, the plot was really poor. I watched it again for the 3rd time, so I'm not as steeped in it as you. But I would agree with that ranking, and even that evolution. I really did not like it the first time I watched it. I warmed up to bits of it, but I'm still on the fence about it. I still have deep misgivings and problems with it.
I liked half of it was great, and the other half was still. But I dug into this forever, and I don't want to. We got a new material here. I will say what what I like about the fact that there's so many Star Wars things coming out now is you don't have to love every single one in order to get value of it. Even if you don't like it, just the process of analyzing it and trying to understand why you don't like it or what works and what doesn't. It's just like, it's a study in film criticism. So.
Yeah, and it's also interesting with so many kind of so many permutations of the series, of the franchise, the way it riffs on itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the kind of games that it plays with itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically you have the first two movies. You have Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, and that just that's the Rosetta Stone of it. And then every other movie either plays into it or plays off of it and tries to either like double down on what you like about it or do the opposite of what you like about it. And then it's just endless variations. And I'm cool with that a lot. There's no way you're ever going to recapture the original magic and the inspiration and just the out of nowhereness of it. Yeah. So it's like Star Wars is always going to be self-aware forever, and that's
one of the. I think that was one of the strengths of Solo, because it feels in some ways like the freshest, maybe the one that comes closest to kind of recapturing a little bit of that magic from the early days.
Why?
And also the humor.
So Rogue One is the least humorous.
Yeah, that's probably true by design, because it's kind of dark. It's a dark story, and it's kind of it's a grim story. I think the prequels are without humor, also because they're just so.
But they attempt humor, just poor humor, because they should have had Carrie Fisher working on those scripts.
The worst aspects.
Yeah.
The worst humorous attempts, and also Solo also is self-conscious, self-aware, and riffs on a lot of stuff in a playful way. And because it's kind of an outlier in the series, it has a lot of freedom.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, it's considered to be a flop.
Yeah, and I wonder if it suffers from, you're talking about with so many different permutations of it, or so many Star Wars movies, and therefore like this big arena for experimentation or doing things. I think it's suffering a kind of dispersion or diffusion effect, where it's less of an event when it happens, and because Solo's been out for a month today, I think.
People are over it.
Yeah, and it's disappeared from a lot of theaters, and it's not. Really
that's why I went and rushed to see it before. I'm probably going to try to see it one more time because it's going to be gone. Yeah. And I mean, I looked at a bunch of box office numbers and stuff like that to try to figure out. I've read a bunch of different shit. I don't know what's reliable and what's not. Mm-hmm. If it actually lost money or it just didn't. It wasn't $1 billion hit, so they consider that to be a loss. And then in the wake of that, they decided not to make any more anthology films. Like they canceled the Boba Fett.
Did they?
Well, they didn't.
I was going to ask you, like, for intel.
What I'm reading, it's not. Who knows? It's not. I don't think there's been a definitive statement saying the Boba Fett movie and the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, which were sort of like in the chamber. They decided to shelve those, and they're going to focus on the Rian Johnson trilogy,
the Solo trilogy.
No, that's a Solo trilogy?
Well,
no, you mean no? They have two new trilogies, Rian Johnson, and they have the Game of Thrones guys.
Okay.
I'm looking. I don't know what the fuck those. And then they have the live-action TV show.
Yeah.
But they're gonna abandon the standalone movies. I say fuck you and fuck that. Like, just make it. Just suck it up. Figure out what went wrong and just keep it going. It still made millions and millions and millions of dollars, and it's gonna continue to make money. And the merchandising and the licensing. I just like. I don't get the decision. I find it disappointing.
I think it's like attention deficit. I think that people stop. I just think people stop paying attention, and it's less of a splash. And it's so much about like, these movies are so much about box office in the first weekend, and that's how they measure success.
Yeah, I think it's a stupid metric. But what do I know? I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. I just remember when we back in our day, you'd have to wait 3 fucking years for a movie, and it was just this gigantic occasion.
Right.
And that sucked. Yeah, but that sucked. I like it that there's just more of it, and it's every day.
No, I do. And that you can count on it every year. But I think it's a couple of things, because like when we were younger, 3 years was such a long time to wait, and now it's every year. When the prequels, it was every 2 years, the time speeds up. It moves much quicker.
Yeah,
you have a life. You're doing other things. You're not thinking about it, and then they come along, and it's like
but I like that. It's just like it makes the horror of being a 50-year-old man easier to bear. If there's going to be a Star Wars movie every year.
And then what about the fact that it was done in the summer, whereas they've been
they should have left it at Christmas. They should have just left.
And
it
now
there.
we have to wait until December 19 for Episode 9.
I don't give a shit about Episode 9.
You don't give a shit about Episode 9?
I don't care.
I mean, I'm curious to see what they do.
I'm curious, but I don't feel any investment in it.
Interesting. All right, well,
we talk about that
yeah.
later. Let's just get
the punch list.
Go to the punch list. Okay. The first new thing that they did was the way they set it up in the very beginning. It says a long time ago in the galaxy far, far away. And then instead of a crawl, or instead of just getting right to the action, they have that little, it is a lawless time, and they have like a couple of sentences that describe nothing. First of all, they say it is a lawless time. What the fuck are you talking about? It's like the Empire is everywhere. They got stormtroopers shaking down people in the airport. It is a law and order time. What the fuck does that even mean? None of that added anything to the story. I don't know. They didn't need any of that shit. They did use the same font.
Yeah, they used the blue lettering a long time ago, far away. And we also have been conditioned not to expect a crawl from an anthology movie from Rogue One, which doesn't.
But then why give us this sort of
a different
half-ass crawl?
Yeah.
Everything that they had in that intro.
It's a leader.
They show it to you in the movie immediately. I thought it was
and the caps,
it was stupid.
the all caps on things that they want you to pay attention to. Crime syndicates are going to be important. Okay, Lady Proxima is not going to be important, but it's like it's a point.
That's not a very Star Warsy name in my opinion.
Lady Proxima.
Yeah.
It's a little louche.
But louche. I do think it's interesting that they set up that the Empire and the crime syndicates sort of have this sort of symbiotic relationship,
maybe a rivalry. I guess they work in league with one another. They describe it later. I mean, can it be a lawless time if it's a period of? I mean, let's place it. I mean, it's a period of imperial consolidation, and we see that in the movie where the Empire is actively conquering worlds.
Yeah, you see that on Moon.
And they're building Star Destroyers, and they're gearing up. So they may not yet have consolidated their control of the galaxy.
It seems like they pretty much do.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's we don't really know that much about this time period, but it just seemed like I don't think that fucking crawl was necessary. I think they should have just like.
And this is what 10 years after.
It's 10 years after. It's probably the midpoint between Episode 3 and Episode 4. Which is 10 years. 10 years on either side.
Because you figure Han is pushing
about
30
in New Hope, so he's 20 here.
He's about 20 here, and Luke and Leia are going to be about 8.
Yeah, something like that. So
they're going to be 18 in New Hope.
Yeah, something like that. So that was okay, fine, fair enough. Did you buy this actor as Han Solo?
That's a big one, and that goes to how much that character, how much that character carries the movie. He was good, and he studied Harrison Ford, and he studied the role, and I found that he did a capable job beyond mimicry. Like, I identified the character in him, and I identified certain mannerisms that he kind of like adopted and took on, and speech patterns that he adopted and took on as his own. So he would scream the same way, and he would kind of enumerate things the same way. I thought he was credible, but we can get into the characterization of Han at this age. The other thing that the opening text says is that what is he? He longs to
stuck on this planet. He longs to.
So he's Luke Skywalker. I mean, it's like a similar setup for Luke, a young kid.
Yeah, I mean, now he's the protagonist of the movie. He goes from being the Lancer, or the sort of foil, or the sort of the older brother character, the sort of the wild card, to the protagonist, and in a way that narrows the character. But I'm not. I will talk about the character and what.
I thought he was charismatic, and I enjoyed watching him. And I think a big, the movie was big on entertainment value. And I think
he was way better than I thought he was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew going in, if I was looking for a Harrison Ford impersonation, I was going to be disappointed. So it's an interpretation of a character. It's not, like you said, an imitation of an actor. And the part was written well enough that the material was there, the jokes were there, the shit that he did worked. And it's like, if you can, I like James Bond, and I like Sean Connery, and I like Roger Moore.
Right.
It's the same guy supposedly, and they don't look alike, and they bring different,
and they approach the role differently.
Yeah, but it still works, and it's like I'm that's fine. I'm happy with that. I mean, from when that first shot when he's driving the car and the way his hair looked and the look on his face, I was like, I'm buying this as Han Solo. Thank fucking God. Thank fucking God. It's close fucking enough, and it's like, and I think it's a ridiculous thing to ask an actor to do, and I can't believe he pulled it off. So I was definitely impressed. His voice doesn't sound anything like Harrison Ford. It's a little nasal compared to Harrison Ford, but who cares? I love that part where he's like, "We already got the pilot."
Yeah.
He was fucking hilarious. I thought he's probably the least interesting thing in the movie.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's always that the protagonist, the good guy in the center of it all is Luke is the most boring guy. Right. He gets a little edgy in Return of the Jedi, but it's like now Lando is sort of like the Han Solo of the Han Solo movie, and it was interesting. But I thought it was good. Where I thought the movie kind of stumbled at the beginning was I didn't understand. They hint at this, like he's been doing scams on the street of Corellia since he was 10.
Yeah.
And he's got these dice, and these dice are obviously very meaningful because they were in a fucking Last Jedi. They played such a crucial role in the Last Jedi, and they're a major thread throughout this movie. But they never say, where does he get them? Why does he have them? Why do they mean anything to him? What are they? They just left that out.
They're a symbol, right?
But but just did he get them? Does it matter where they came from?
Does it matter where they came from? I mean, I would turn the question on you. I didn't.
Yes, I think it does.
Yeah, I didn't get.
Where did he get them? Why are these dice so meaningful to him, or is it just because?
I think they take on meaning because of the exchange between him and Kira, and then they come back, and he gives them to her, and then years later they come back to him, and it's totemic of their of their relationship.
Yeah, and then it becomes totemic of Leia and his relationship.
So
but
it's the beginning
it wouldn't hurt to just know where they came from.
I
Maybe
mean,
I'm going to nitpick the fuck out of this shit. I already said that I love this movie, but what I enjoy about Star Wars and what I'm inflicting on the audience here today is I love parsing every little fucking detail of it.
That's fair, but the movie does so much of that, and has been accused of sort of over-explaining or like things that you never really asked, that the ordinary viewer, the common viewer, never really asked themselves or needed to know.
I don't know. It's just like he mentions his father. He had a father who built ships. What happened to your father? Yeah. And you don't. Is he dead? Like it wouldn't have hurt.
Lando asks him if they get along, and he says not really.
So it implies he's alive. Right. It just like how did he? It wouldn't. I don't think like it would have hurt. Like if he was with Lady Proxima since he was 10, give us or just like how Rogue One started with that little prologue where it was like 10 years earlier. Yeah. They could have just done
this
something.
Was the prologue, though. You don't want to have a prologue to the prologue. You weren't gonna. I mean, I don't need to see him as a child because like we've had.
Maybe, but I mean, I'm just curious to know. And the thing is,
and the titles call them runaways. That Lady Proxima employs or
scrum rats.
Yeah, well, scrum rats, and I want to get back to that because that's used and people know that term and that terminology.
That's a real term, scrum rat?
No, but Dryden Voss uses it later, and presumably he would have learned it from Kira. It's a riff. For me, it's about nomenclature in Star Wars and how tight it is sometimes and how utterly bad and sloppy it is in others. Well, like because I rewatched Last Jedi, and they talk about the ancient, the sacred Jedi texts, and and then Luke is talking about the nun creatures that maintain and clean
caretakers.
Yeah, the caretakers that clean the Jedi structures, and they talk about the Jedi Temple. None of these things have proper names. They're all kind of generic nouns. Yeah,
Jedi Temple, not like Angkor Wat or the Taj Mahal or whatever.
So it just seems like it's a minor thing, but it just seems like an oversight. It just feels like half bakedness. It's like it hasn't been
all the time.
Yeah, it's been underwritten. It's like you put that in there as a placeholder in the script and figured we'd get back to it, later when we tighten things up. We just need to be able to refer to these things, and then they never do. They just leave it in place. And again, this is backsliding. And maybe it would be sacrilege to say, but couldn't the sacred Jedi text be the wills, the Journal of the Wills?
Yeah.
Why not? And
it makes sense.
And the Jedi structures was
Jedi structure.
So to have Scrum Rats, which is such a it's a unique coinage. It's distinct. Somebody obviously thought about that. So it's an intention, and that other characters who are not immediately involved in that would call back to it. So I thought that was imagined. The movie was thoroughly imagined in a way that some of the others were not.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I'm sure we can poke holes in that theory.
Yeah.
This is a funny thought that I had though, because we never seen obviously Corellia before.
Right.
And, things have been written and stated. We don't know what's canon and what's not. Right. It's hard to keep track of it, and I'm not completely versed in all the writings.
Yeah,
so I don't
should
know.
Say for the sake of the audience in this conversation that I'm definitely not. I'm really just the movies guy, and not the bigger universe.
Yeah, occasionally I'll read certain things here and there just to get the feeling this is great. The visual guide is killer, just because it fills in the details of and gives you a little bit more about what's going on. But we've never seen Corellia. I love that idea of the shipyard and seeing the Star Destroyers being built and the TIE fighters and all that. But this is what I realized. It's this is a core world, right? It's Coruscant, Corellia, these are named because they're part of the galactic core. And I never pictured what Corellia was like, but it's if Coruscant is New York City, and Corellia...
Planet-wide.
Yeah, planet-wide, and then Corellia is the industrial sort of sister.
Pittsburgh.
It's Jersey.
Okay.
Fucking Corellia. Han Solo is from New Jersey.
He's from the outer boroughs across the river.
He's from because they talk about the stench, and all of that, and just that's where all the sort of garbage goes, and all the
and he's a speed racer,
takes a
and
shit.
he's into cars and fast ships.
Yeah,
and that's kind of
that's I think that's super Jersey, and he's kind of an idiot, and that's
he's a jamoke.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just a thought I had, but I thought it was it does look like a pretty fucking miserable planet, and I thought it would be just as good as Coruscant.
I guess I would say that I like the way that Han and Lando bonded over the reference to their fathers, and that was sort of a sly way of acknowledging that commonality between them and giving a little bit of backstory without delving
Every
into
motherfucker in the show has a problem with his father.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
the basis of all the drama.
Well,
so
then aren't you glad they didn't explore it more deeply than that? That they just left it at that?
I don't need to... If you're going to bring up his father, I maybe want to know a little bit about it, because it explains a lot. And it's also... What I find is also interesting is that they gave us this movie of this character after we already see how he dies. And his death is probably one of the most tragic deaths in all of Star Wars. He's murdered by his own son. And it's there's been a lot of fucked up things that happened, but I think that's one of the worst ways to go. It's so sad, and it's just throughout this movie, and you look at now what you know about Han Solo's whole life, and it's always been kind of sad. He never really gets it.
Yeah, it was kind of sad.
He has a lot of adventures and he has a lot of fun, but when it really counts, it doesn't work out. He's just, it's a lifetime of pain and struggle and running and never quite being there, and so I was talking about, living with a price on your head and how much of his life he spends on the wrong side of things, and even at the end of his life when he has other opportunities, he just can't escape his past, and it eventually just is the end of him.
He goes back to being a smuggler, right? He wasn't able to make a go of it.
He wasn't able to transcend, his background, and it's I think it's ultimately a tragic story.
Well, they also juxtapose, between the two, they juxtapose the Skywalker family with the latter Solo family, because Luke has a kind of reconciliation with his father that never comes between Ben and Han. And Luke says in Jedi, I can't kill my own father to Obi-Wan, to the apparition of Obi-Wan, and Ben obviously doesn't have that that impediment. I mean, he's able to overcome that.
Yeah, but it also compromised him significantly. Yeah. So, but it's just fucking sad. Okay, let's get into the thing. What did you think of Lady Proxima and...
I was, my first reaction, and I don't know that it's changed dramatically, is that, when I saw her on the screen, I was, disappointed. I was, deflated.
Why? Why? What was off about it?
I just didn't, I don't know, I didn't buy it or believe, I don't know, this multi-legged worm creature was, the overlord.
Why, you bought Jabba the Hutt,
no, and I don't like Jabba the Hutt. I never liked Jabba the Hutt.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, I like him.
He's iconic.
Yeah, he's iconic, and so he's sort of grandfathered into my legacy sense of Star Wars. But looking at it, I don't know. I thought it was a miscalculation that that necessitated so many of the faults that Jedi has radiate out from this decision to make him this bloated, immobile creature, this disgusting, bloated, mobile creature who doesn't look real, and that has to do with the creature shot.
Wow, I thought Jabba was one of the best parts of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many problems about Return of the Jedi, which I don't have time to get into.
No, and it's low in the. I
mean, it just seems like another thing. It's just it's another here is Han having to stand before some monstrous creature that has some sort of sway over him, and he's and there has to have audience with them, and it's let's just make it look this way this time, and now she's a bug. And she's
so what are you saying? It's a retread? It's
it's a retread. But I mean, it also is he's been doing this kind of thing his whole life. He's been under the thumb of somebody.
No, and it's a callback to Jedi because he does the thermal detonator trick. Except this time it's a trick and not a real.
I found that funny.
Detonator. Yeah, no, I didn't mind that, and I liked that whole arena, and I liked Moloch and that whole interaction. I liked the way. So a couple of things. I liked in the opening how one of the very first, not the first, but one of the very first scenes or bits of spoken dialogue is between those two kids in the passageway where they're
arguing over the booty.
Arguing over the booty, and portion is another word that I hate.
Force Awakens.
It's a callback to Force Awakens. It's a usage from Force Awakens, but the idea of portion is this sort of generic.
Yeah, you could have come up with a word for the meal.
Yeah. But the girl takes it from him, and whoever's holding it gets it. So that immediately sets establishes the theme of betrayal, which is so
I never thought
rich
of that.
throughout the movie. Comes back at the end of the movie, obviously. So importantly. And then in the tribunal in front of Lady Proxima, it's Kira that is the fast talker and talks about doubling the loss and making up double on the coaxium that they lost, which is the same thing that they end up using to sway Dryden.
Yeah, it seems like that's a thing. I'll pay you triple, Jabba. Right. They're always it just seems like it's just that's how you get caught in this life. You're always your debt just keeps going up and up and up and up.
Yeah, you're always having to make it up. You're always having to cover it.
I mean, again, it was also just the whole thing was just Oliver Twist, pretty much.
Right.
The whole thing, and we've seen that a little bit with Watto and Anakin, and now this is just full blown.
And the kids in Last Jedi on in the stable that can't bite.
It's now just. I mean, what a shitty galaxy where just so many kids are suffering, and she even talks about getting picked up by traffickers and stuff like that.
Right,
awful.
Right.
How fucking dangerous.
Yeah, and so that's another thing where I think her character is established very, very tightly and very smartly early on in the movie, because the first thing she says, she basically articulates her values and what's important to her when she's saying they can get off the planet. When they're in the speeder and they're running away, and they don't have to answer to anybody. Her idea of freedom, of a life worth having, is being free and not having to answer to anybody. And her tragedy later is that
she says, gets in it with the worst people.
With the worst people, and she says to him on Severine that everybody serves somebody.
Right.
Even Dryden Boss serves somebody.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's also fucking depressing. I thought she was a pretty good character. It's weird because it's Daenerys Targaryen, and it's just like sometimes, I forgot about that, but it's just like. Amelia Clark, the girl from...
she's from Game of Thrones, yeah, which I don't watch. Okay.
Oh, okay, well, you're missing out.
Yeah.
But, what I really liked about... I read the art of Solo, where they have the concept drawings, and they said that her outfit was based on, like, Nancy Spungen and, like, early 70s, like, punk and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, she's definitely like the hottest babe in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, she was pretty good. I thought she looked great. I thought she was a good.
And she's a good actress. And like her facial register, like her expressions, I thought she emoted well. She had like an economy of means in terms of expressing herself.
Yeah, I don't understand there's.
Is she in the expanded universe at all?
At this point, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the spin-off material is. We haven't seen her anywhere. I think she was on that. There's that show, the cartoon, where it's all just the female characters. It's all these little shorts. Okay. But I think she was introduced into this story to begin with. And it's frustrating. Like I don't know if they're ever going to make a sequel to this movie, and we're probably never gonna. If you want to know what ultimately happened to her, you got to read the fucking comics and the novels, and that's it's a pain in the ass. It's like I wish they would just like sort of resolve it. It's like she's just out there somewhere. Maybe she survives well into the time of Force Awakens, and there'd be an interesting encounter where he sees her again. So you don't think
that they're gonna? I mean, like my understanding is that there is now a Solo trilogy.
Who the fuck told you that?
I thought that or at least that. Ehrenreich has been signed on for 3 movies.
Sure.
Maybe that means he's just a peripheral character. Like his story becomes secondary.
Well, now it looks like they don't want to do it, which is disappointing. But it was just like I would totally watch another movie of this crew. It's
like I feel like his relationship with Lando can just now that's sufficient to take them to Empire. Like they don't need everything that they've done here. They don't need
to meet again.
Yeah, to meet again, to pick up. I mean, you would think from Empire and Jedi that their past relationship had been longer and more substantive than that. But they also cover all the bases here and sort of leave it, and like any future interaction.
You got a lot of guts coming here after what you pulled.
Yeah.
The thing he pulled was he stole his fucking whole card and fucking
fair
cheated
and
him
square.
Out.
Fair and square. I want it from you fair and
Which
square.
Which wasn't true.
Yeah.
But he was a cheater.
Yeah.
And it also suggests that every time they meet, they pretend they're going to fight.
Yeah.
Who knows? It could go either way.
Yeah.
An interesting detail too is like, when they first meet, we're getting a little heavy, but that's okay. When they first meet, and he's like, Han, and he's like, it's Han.
Yeah.
Billy D. Williams calls him Han in Empire Strikes Back,
but not ironically.
So it's like either. I mean, that was just a mistake. Exactly. That was a mistake just because he read it off the script and he never was told how to say it, so he's saying Han, so they sort of retrofit it that maybe that's just like a joke between them, that he always constantly pronounces his name wrong. I love when they do shit just to fuck with him because he got it wrong the first time. But I love when they pay that kind of attention to detail, where they sort of like retroactively are able to sort of fix or at least explain certain inconsistencies in the original films. So that's fun. I didn't get that escape plan where they're just going to put the coaxium and bribe the customs official.
Yeah.
Couldn't they have just sold that and then bought a ticket? Like, did they have to could they have just like ditched Moloch and hunkered down? Like, it's so crazy. It's like
obviously time, compression, urgency. They were just trying to
get out. I think it's just another one of those.
Every scene you get into, you have to like get out of fast, especially with the.
I mean, I think in a lot of ways that's where a lot of Star Wars movies suffer. They're just like going from one thing to the next so fast
that's like the modern or contemporary blockbuster, like the imprint of the disease of the contemporary blockbuster, where there's so many. Yeah, everything has to be fast to get to and action packed, and to get to the next beat.
Yeah, just get through it. Just get through it as quickly as possible.
And so, and this is a complaint for this movie and for Force Awakens and for all of them, that like all the recent crop, that like every problem or challenge that is, the odds are stacked against them astronomically, they basically finesse, and it isn't a problem. And it's always just against the clock. Right. And that's how suspense is generated, because it all has to happen right now. Right. And they have to muster.
And it happens at the last moment.
Yeah.
Always
and it always requires a level of like technical acumen. To
connect these wires, and like
download L3's brain, inject the coaxium into the fuel.
Yeah, but I still sometimes, if it's done well, I still find myself like clutching the seat, even though I know how it ends.
And and I think that's where this movie is successful.
I mean, what's also like a lot of Star Wars movies, it's one of those things where everything happens over a fairly compressed period of time. Like all the pivotal things of his life happen almost within like a period of a couple of days. Like he meets Chewbacca, he gets his blaster, he meets Lando, he gets the Falcon, he does the Kessel Run.
It works in the context of the movie, but it's a problem for movies in general.
Yeah, But I mean, even all the Star Wars movies are like that. It all seems like it's like everything important happens over a couple of days, and then there's a period of in between where nothing happens, and then the sequel comes out, and it's like all the important shit just happened over like a week.
Right.
And then
there's always reference to other episodes or instances, run-ins with this person at that place, and the things that happen. And I guess increasingly they rely on the expanded universe for that. Nobody, or very few people eat, sleep, fuck, shit. Yeah. That stuff doesn't exist in this world.
We actually have no idea how much time is passing.
Yeah.
And they don't even talk about relativity, which is a whole other thing. Traveling through space and everything like that.
That's like a bigger thing. So, but specifically here, you didn't like this plan because they could have sold the coaxium and bought a ticket. How about that? I don't know. Was she a customs customs agent with the lipstick?
Yeah.
We've never seen
someone wearing lipstick.
I don't think we've ever seen anybody wearing lipstick in Star Wars. Maybe that's wrong. No, we probably have in Jabba's palace, but like an imperial.
Well, I mean, that's funny that stood out to you. We've never really seen too many female Imperials at all.
No.
So maybe that's a thing.
Yeah. What about also his name and how he gets his name?
I thought that was fine. Yeah. What did you think of that?
It's like an old thing. Like, we know Han Solo is, apart from Chewbacca, a lone wolf and, out there. But, and Solo makes sense. Like, the names in New Hope felt totemic or archetypal.
Skywalker,
yeah. It's just that. And even, the sound of it, Vader.
Right.
And
which also means father.
Right. And
in Dutch.
And so Han Solo, it seems appropriate for him. I guess it felt too on the nose.
Like, he's actually named Han Solo because he's alone. Yeah. Although I must admit, that scene made me so sad when he was like, "Who are your people, son?" And he's like, "I don't have people." His people are Luke and Leia. Yeah. And he's not going to meet them for 10 years. But it's just like, I don't know. That just made me feel so sad for him. And that just like in a lot of ways, that tragedy, that trauma is going to.
And also, right now,
forever.
his people are Kira, and
that doesn't go.
Yeah,
that doesn't fly.
And then she betrays him. I mean, she protects him.
His only person is a Wookiee.
Yeah.
Which we have to talk about that, but not yet. What I did think was really cool when he has to join the Empire, and
see it,
and they have the Imperial March playing in the commercial, but it's like in a major key. It's like they changed it a little bit so it sounded more. It was more uplifting, It sounded like.
Well, it's propaganda, and they're using like classic propaganda elements from old Soviet posters.
Yeah, it was perfect.
In that advertisement. It's perfect, and it's just that I thought was like the clever deployment or redeployment of material from other movies in a knowing way that in a good way.
Jizz all over shit like that.
Yeah, and it's not like so. There's dialogue. We know that there's dialogue that gets repeated across all of the movies. I got a bad feeling about that, and here they riff on it, and he says, "I have a good feeling."
Yeah, I love that.
About this.
I fucking love that.
This feels like meta. The use of the music feels meta, and there was another thing like that I felt like it was a joke, and it was a good joke. Oh, it's when and this is again later, when they arrive on Kessel, and Kira talks to, I don't know the guy's name, but the
Pike Syndicate guy,
yeah,
with the hexagonal head. He was
yeah,
sort of like a weird Jawa type thing with the snot.
Yeah,
love that guy.
And she introduces herself as a representative of the Trade Federation, and it's a long-winded bureaucratic name that she kind of stumbles over. To me, that feels like it's making fun of the prequel.
Yeah, you're right.
It's
that's
like
that's a good point.
They're like joking about how how burdensome all of that stuff was in the prequels. Except, I'll make the case when we get to it that this movie and Rogue One bears the imprint or similarities to the prequels that it doesn't share with earlier movies.
Which is what?
Well, just the these movies obviously are more progressive, more outwardly, openly sort of ideological and woke than any of the other movies in terms of their casting choices and the roles
and the politics.
The politics, and the subjects. I mean, these movies this movie and Rogue One in particular are concerned with finite resources and Last Jedi.
Right.
In this movie, the MacGuffin is coaxium, which is what sets the plot in motion, and everything is sort of a play or a scramble or a chase for coaxium. In Rogue One, there's talk about the kyber crystals, and we've never talked about this stuff before. They've never been concerned about the resources, though it's clear that an empire, a colonial enterprise, is built on
stealing resources,
on appropriation of other people's resources, and Last Jedi. One of the things that inflamed me or infuriated me about it was that whole business about running out of fuel, because they never talked about
fuel. Yeah, I went on a huge diatribe about this in the Last Jedi review, but I just found that was just way too convenient. Where suddenly we've never thought about fuel, and now suddenly all the ships are. Watch the Last Jedi review. But
that's the case. But this syncs up with that in a way that I don't say necessarily redeems that fault or flaw in Last Jedi. But it's like there's an overriding concern or a preoccupation with resources and ownership of resources, and obviously it's instrumental at the end of the movie with Emphas Nest and the future of the rebellion. And how this action does link up to Rogue One and to New Hope with the enough coaxium to power a Starfleet. And they began to do that in the prequels. And the prequels is where they got into the economics of the Star Wars universe,
right?
In a way that they
and I didn't have a problem with any of that. People always complain about the trade wars and all that shit like that. The trade federation. I thought that stuff was interesting and and it's
over most kids' heads, and
maybe,
these are children's.
Who knows? But it's all very realistic, especially compared to what's going on now. When we look at the current government and the trade wars.
So they feel like Star Wars movies for our time.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it worked. One thing. Now this is we got 4 new stormtroopers in this movie. We got the patrol trooper, which is the cop that's chasing them.
On Corellia?
Yeah, he's got the black and white with the abbreviated costume. There was the Mimban stormtrooper, which is basically sort of just like a stormtrooper with a cape and a little extra thing on his head and covered with mud.
Which is part of the design of Kylo Ren's helmet.
Is it?
Yeah.
That bulbous thing on the top?
Which one are we talking about? The infantry? The
no. The mud troopers. That's what you're talking about. Where the eyepiece looks like Kylo Ren and the gas mask. That's the mud trooper. Then they had the Mimban stormtrooper, which were the other stormtroopers, which are just they have just the cape and there's some protrusion on their helmet. And then you have the range troopers, which I thought were great with those magnetic boots and the collar, the fur collar. Would have liked to see more of those guys. Right. I love how every time there's a new movie, they just come up with new stormtroopers. But now that's the thing. I'll take new stormtroopers forever. I love stormtroopers. I will take. But now it makes the sand troopers in A New Hope look really preposterous. because
with the
there's nothing sand about their equipment at all. They're just
right.
regular stormtroopers with a fucking massive backpack and a pauldron. You know, there's nothing about them that makes
pauldron,
them.
Is that the name?
Yeah,
of the
that
shoulder,
thing. And we saw those guys in the airport, and
yeah.
apparently "move along" is a thing that stormtroopers say all the time.
Yeah.
But it's just like the sand troopers are not equipped at all for the desert, and you think in just like 5 days ago they had like beach stormtroopers that are they're short. They're not even aquatic short stormtroopers. They're shore troopers. You know, they're specific.
Where, Rogue One?
Rogue One. So it just seems funny to me that they didn't have specialized sand equipment. We know why, because at the time when they made the movie.
Yeah, and what would you have? The alternative is having Lucas special edition.
No, I don't want that. I mean, you can't fix it now. I just find it funny. I just find it funny, you know, how a lot of times, like how stupid, like how just it makes certain things, and all these new movies make certain things in Episode 4 just implausible. You know, like the relation, like how Darth Vader's behaving at the end of Rogue One compared to his restrained demeanor at the beginning of New Hope. It just kind of doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. It's just fun to pass over.
Merchandising opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
Had they known.
Yeah. Now I felt like there's a 3-year gap between when he joins the Empire and when he winds up on Mimban as a mud trooper.
Right.
And apparently, you know, he was in the academy and he got kicked out for having a mind of his own.
Which is lame.
I kind of wanted to see that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I thought this is what I found a little revisionist. Like, again, they got rid of the original the old canon and changed it, but it just like apparently he joined the Empire for whatever reason, and we knew he was never really cut out to be an Imperial, and he gets kicked out of the Empire. I thought there was some sort of more formal thing. Like, the original story was that he was stationed somewhere where there were Wookiee slaves, and he couldn't abide by it, and Chewbacca was a slave and was being brutalized on this, like, penal colony somewhere, and he couldn't handle it, so he deliberately and purposefully forwent his stature and his position in the Empire to free this Wookiee and get the fuck out, you know. And I just thought.
So what was the source of that story? Because I
can't remember. I don't remember. It was in so many of the old books and some of.
But that's probably a way in which they went back to expanded universe material and mined it for what they needed, and then kind of refitted it.
I guess they changed it though, because it's like, I mean, I thought that the reason why he left the Empire was specifically because he couldn't handle what they were doing to the Wookiees, and that's when he started to get woke, you know. And in this case, it's more just like he's just tossed into the situation, and he happens to be able to come up with a way to get free, and they do. But what I don't understand, first of all, why does he speak Wookiee? Like, do we need to know that?
No. In 3 years, a lot had to have happened. He had to learn some basic Wookiee.
Maybe he learned Wookiee on Corellia. Maybe there was a Wookiee in his life there at some point.
We never saw it. I mean, we don't see it.
But does he need to speak Wookiee? It just doesn't make... Chewbacca understands basic. It just...
No, but he needed it in order to, like, penetrate... Or
to win him over that he was a friend in some way. And it was funny hearing him speak it. I like that, but
it was a nice touch.
It's absolutely... It's just one of those things you have to just take for granted.
He was like a skilled sabacc player, you know, which he may have, I guess...
Played on... No, they have... I think the dice are from Corellian version of sabacc. Yeah. It says here in this book that there's a version of sabacc on Corellia that involves dice. Yeah, they're sabacc dice. But what I don't get it is like, okay, so him and Chewbacca escape and they get to go on the ship and whatever.
Yeah.
Why does Chewbacca stay with him? It's like in earlier versions of the story, Han specifically and deliberately saves Chewbacca, so Chewbacca has a life debt to him. That's a thing with the Wookiees, where if somebody saves your life, you have to spend the rest of your life serving that guy. Because what we know about Chewbacca from Episode 3, he's just a regular guy that fought in the Clone Wars to try to throw off the yoke of suppression from the Trade Federation.
Yeah.
Why then, without specifically having this obligation with the life debt, instead of going and finding his tribe or his family, like what his stated goal is, he just follows this stranger into a life of crime. You know, Chewbacca wasn't by nature a crook or a criminal or an underworld figure, and with a little bit of grumbling, he just goes along with.
I mean, I think what we're asked to accept or believe is that their bond develops over the course of the events in this movie.
They could have just, the shower scene was funny and almost homoerotic.
Yeah.
They could have just had a couple of lines of dialogue where Chewbacca sort of commits himself, or it could have been stated why the fucking Chewbacca
always gets the shaft. He always gets sidelined.
We got the most Chewbacca though. I thought he was great in this, and like you got to feel more of his personality, and like when he's speaking, you have no idea what he's saying. You can feel the emotion in his voice, and it's like you feel connected to this character. They could have given some explanation as like why he decides to just hang up his life goal to just follow this fucking schmuck.
Well, the moment is on Kessel, right? When he has to part from the Wookiees that he liberated.
Yeah, they transmuted the Wookiee slavery thing to Kessel instead, and and they sort of play lip service to that, and that was cool. That other Wookiee was an ugly motherfucker.
Yeah, he looks like
Chaka or something. Yeah, which goes to show that maybe Chewbacca is like a very handsome Wookiee by Wookiee standards.
Right. Well, we've seen other Wookiees that are attractive though.
Yeah, that's true. I just think I don't understand. They never really made clear why Chewbacca just suddenly takes up with this fucking guy because you're still hanging out with this loser.
And I also, I mean, to put pressure on it, I don't believe that moment in the down in Kessel in the tunnels where they're about to part company, where he's going to liberate the Wookiees, and Han gives him the gaffy stick and like says maybe I'll see you around. Like we're asked to believe
we're gonna leave on the same ship, right?
There's like a juncture here where they're just gonna part ways and that's it.
Yeah, that's preposterous.
It's like no, just like let him, like he's just gonna
do
go
this,
do
you
that.
Do that. I'll meet up with you.
Which is what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they really tried to play up the tension. I mean, the tentativeness of their relationship at that point.
Yeah.
But they could have done.
Yeah,
they could have done a little bit better.
When he saves them on the conveyance. There are various moments where he calls him buddy, and you see this sort of growing.
Yeah, but the thing is, Han is obviously. I always said Han for some reason.
Yeah.
Han is making.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that there's always as kid, there was always both two ways to say it, and Leia and Leah also.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't get corrected on it till like last year though, so it's weird. But I got
caught. I said Leah in front of a bunch of young people, and I got caught thinking younger people.
Caught out there
and called out.
Wow, that's crazy.
And explained it by like the awkwardness of like being a kid when you were 10 and seeing this movie for the first time and saying Leia. It has slight embarrassing sexual overtones. I think
speak for yourself.
For a kid, for a pre-adolescent.
Speak to yourself, Hal.
Okay.
Okay, so, and then we meet on Mimban.
Mimban is the mud planet.
The mud planet.
Okay, all right.
And I guess the Empire is trying to install. That was that war scene.
That battle scene was great. That battle scene and the battle scene in Rogue One are the two best. Like
that felt like World War One.
Yeah,
trench warfare.
And the Rogue One battle scene felt like urban guerrilla terrorist warfare.
Yeah, that was for sure. Yeah. For sure, I like that.
That aerial shot where they're laying down, they're laying down fire. Like after they get together and Beckett takes charge of the unit and it's like the segue out. He asserts himself as the leader of the group and directs them to go left and to go right, and then you get that aerial shot of them with laser cannons just like kicking ass.
That was really
transitions.
Cool. I love that first shot of Beckett when you see him on the hill with the guns and
but too much spinning.
I dug it. It was because
he had to catch Han's
He had to stand out in some way. He had to stand out in some way, and was like, that guy is cool. I relate to that guy. There's something going on with that guy. I mean, I liked the character. It was
and I like the relationship between them.
It was fucking Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson is a great actor, though. And again, Star Wars has not.
Did you find he disappeared in the role?
No.
Woody Harrelson. What
do you mean disappeared?
Well, when you don't, you're not thinking, that's Woody Harrelson.
I thought he was wholly believable as this guy.
Yeah, he was. He was a sad guy too.
Yeah.
And he,
and he was the model for Han. He was his mentor, and I love that the way that they played that to the end, where he kills him, but they can still like grasp hands at the end and like have an emotion. They can acknowledge that they would have killed each other, but still had like an understanding.
Well, it was like honor among thieves or whatever. I mean, and it's just so weird because it's like at the
and again. Go ahead.
Okay.
Because he can do, again, I think as a skilled actor, he can emote and do more with less. his facial expressions like said a lot. Like when when he says when he says to Han that if you go with me, then you're in this life for good. What about him? And Chewie howls, and Beckett looks at Han for an interpretation and just kind of has his sucking his cheeks and raises his eyebrows. Like what did he say? Yeah, it's just felt very. He's got flair. He's got chops.
Yeah, he was. I thought he was pretty good. I'm gonna go back to Gloom some and get into the Val.
Yeah, that was overworked.
Maybe I thought he was pretty good. Although it's just funny because like we said, he's nothing. He was nothing like Han. Han, it's just like I guess we talk about this later at the end. Like I want to get through the sort of details because then there's like the whole morality that I felt didn't make any sense. But okay, here's another thing that I thought was weird. They go out of their way to go to this war zone to steal this particular ship because they need it for the heist.
Yeah.
And then they take the ship and they're over the convex or whatever, the train, and it looks as if the way the ship is shaped, it just fits over the box car and lifts it up. And instead they're like rigging it with all these fucking cables. Why you could have done that with any ship. Why did you steal that ship if you're just going to do this half-ass rigging job? It looked like the thing just was designed to pick up those cargo boxes. So
grab it or
that was really fucking stupid to me. I mean, maybe that's like a fucking minor detail, but it seemed kind of lazy to me. Another thing that popped up and that made me just ask some weird questions is when they're flying. When they're about to like do the thing and Rio's like, okay, let's jam their transmissions. And in almost every Star Wars movie, there's something where somebody pushes a button and jams the transmissions.
Right.
Is that a thing you can do? Like, there's just a button you push and your guys' communicators just turn off? They do that in Jedi. They do that, like, jam their comlinks, center switch.
They do that
so there's a speeder bike that you could press a button on the speeder bike to cut off your friend's transmission for what reason? And the thing is, like, they jam the Empire's comlinks, and yet they're still talking on their comlinks. You think the Empire would also have this technology too?
Definitely.
What the fuck? Am I bugging for no reason? It just.
I mean, it's commonplace because Star Trek has it too. They have the ability to jam communicators and transmissions, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's
just one of those things that they expect you to take for granted, and then
it's technology based.
When
I mean,
I'm
I
really
imagine like it's like a
sitting in the
certain
movie
frequency.
theater.
Like you can jam their transmissions, but like a more sophisticated technology
they just
can
talk on
do
a
it to
different
a lesser
frequency?
Technology. But like because speeder bikes probably can only communicate on a narrow bandwidth, and so. You have the capability of blocking it because it's just a tool. I mean that particular piece of equipment, is only designed to do so much. It's not going to have a broad range of capabilities.
It just struck me as dumb.
Yeah.
But anyway, what do you think? Okay, Val and Rio. What did you think of those characters?
Well, they're wasted early, and they have to be for the story. I was thinking about Rio. I like him. I'm irritated by digital creatures that are given too much to do, and he was no exception. But his dialogue was well written, and so he felt like an autonomous character. Like
and you were kind of moved a little bit when he died.
When he died,
kind of sad.
His death scene was good, and the way Han observes it, notes it, and seems saddened by it, and the whole theme of dying alone, which is recurs.
Yeah.
And Val dies alone, and they all talk about it's a miserable thing to die alone, and so it capitalized on it. And Val too, I liked it. I mean, she had spirit. Would she have killed herself in that situation?
It's really peculiar. Yeah, like could they have just aborted the mission and got her out of there?
Well, they would have. I think Beckett would have in that circumstance, but she would. She did. She chose
Yeah, but
not
she's like
to.
a mercenary. Is she really willing to sacrifice herself for a fucking heist? That didn't make any sense. And it's just so funny because there are no black women in Star Wars, and she was a good character. She could have easily filled the Beckett role.
Right.
Like she could have been Han's mentor too.
That would have been interesting.
And that would have been interesting too.
Also, sort of footnote to that, I was wondering if Maz Kanata was going to be in this,
right?
And black woman character.
Sort of,
yeah,
I guess.
sort of, but,
I mean,
but
when
no.
does Han meet Maz?
Yeah, and I thought, like,
this
so in the movie's effort to explain everything about the backstory, I thought she would be in it too. And when I saw the trailer and didn't know Rio as a distinct character, I thought, and it was on very quickly, I thought that he was Maz.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
But yes, what you're saying would be interesting. I think it. Yeah, I think it would have been like, again, progressive of the movie. It would have been in the spirit of the times, but I don't know that I would necessarily have bought that. I think he would have had to have learned from an older guy.
Yeah, maybe a father figure, because that's what all these movies are fucking about. Yeah. Another thing about this, though, what I'm noticing in the new
and I'm sorry. And when she died, I was moved by her death.
Yeah, me too. I was a little disappointed. I thought she was going to be in the whole movie.
Yeah.
But I guess you have to get rid of the baggage.
Well, I found myself, as I was watching it, thinking, like, okay, so harking back to the trailer and using the trailers as indexes on the movies is like because, like, when you watch the movies, I check them against the trailer.
Sometimes shit in the trailer doesn't make it in the movie.
No, and I want to talk about that too. And I also want to talk about the Lord Miller changes and the Ron Howard handoff. But so she doesn't. I was thinking about the environments in which she appears, and she doesn't appear in any other environments.
Except Fandor.
Yeah, and so, like, she.
So you knew that was going to happen.
Coming. Yeah, not that far ahead. But
I did. I'm going to take a piss after this point.
Yeah.
In these new movies, people tend to linger on a lot longer before they die when they get shot.
Yeah.
Like in all the other prequels.
Do.
Well, maybe, but like except for where Leia gets shot in the arm in Jedi, everybody else that gets shot by a laser bolt, whether you're a fully armored stormtrooper getting shot from across the fucking room or up close, you just instantly die.
Yeah.
And in Rogue One, Krennic gets shot and doesn't die. Kylo Ren gets shot and doesn't die.
Yeah,
Rio takes a long time to die. Beckett gets shot like from close range and doesn't instantly die.
Right.
I get that because it's for the dramatic effect, but it does seem like a bit of a. It seems like they did change the physics a little bit. They
changed the physics of it, and I also saw Jedi not that long ago, and this also has to do with violence and the sort of the shifting of the changing of what's acceptable. Like in Jedi on the sail barge, Luke is cutting people up with a lightsaber, but you don't see any of that. There's no penetration the way there is in Last Jedi.
Right.
There's no
just
getting
sort of just clubbed.
Yeah, it's just he moves in front of them and waves it, and they fall back.
Yeah.
And you don't see any of the consequences.
And now, like Rio, all the fucking burning flesh, he's dying and he's suffering.
And on the gore tip, nothing is gorier than Revenge of the Sith,
where it catches on fire.
Yeah, where they behead Dooku and cut off his hands.
Yeah,
and
but there's no
and then
gore.
Cut off his legs and he catches on fire. Yeah, relatively speaking, I suppose, relative to
the next thing that comes in here is Enfys Nest.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you think of her? No, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Enfys Nest is cool. I like that name, first of all, and the costume is badass, and that whole crew is badass. And I like the speeder bikes and the way swoop bikes is what they're called, and the way they mirror the speeder bikes from Jedi, so they kind of reuse some of the vehicles and the technology.
Shit. I mean, she's just a stormtrooper mixed with a Tusken Raider.
Yeah. She was. Like what? So when the reveal, I like who she is and her story, but she just seemed a little fresh-faced and young. She should have been a little more hardened and a little older.
Well, I guess she talked about this was something her mom. She took it over from her mom.
From her mother, right? And this is the story of what happened to them. And I like that twist and who they are and how they're perceived and who they turn out to be. I like that Warwick Davis is the sidekick, and
he's actually the guy from Phantom Menace, same character. There's a guy. His name is Weasel, and he's in the box with Jabba the Hutt. He's in the pod racing scene.
Oh, is he?
When he's in Watto's box at the arena, and apparently between there and this, he found his way into this sort of nascent rebellion. But also, there was the guy from Rogue One, Pablo Tutu, or whatever.
That I picked up and liked. That was cool, and that's a nice connective thread between this sort of.
I mean, also then it also makes like the neighborhood really small.
Yeah.
Like in like this whole fucking galaxy, all these people just keep meeting each other.
And also the way that Han and Kira meet on Boss's yacht.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it was interesting.
Felt a little neat.
Yeah, I mean, I read something about the design of all of Enfys Nest crew, how they were all sort of like based on like indigenous peoples, and they were talking about how they were trying to be really fucking careful about like not being appropriators and everything like that. And it's like, whatever, I'm not an indigenous person, so I can't say whether they succeeded or not. But it seemed honest and real and fitting, and all those people on Sovereign, the complexion of those people. Yeah. I mean, none of them said a single word.
I mean, I didn't like the world music soundtrack, like flashes on the soundtrack. But I liked that group and that tableau. It was convincing. It was persuasive. It was
Star Wars,
and they do that in Jakku also, right? They do that
sort of. But these look pretty most blatantly like Native American and South American peoples, African. Also. Yeah, I love that there was little kids that are wearing that what look like AT-AT driver helmets, but they're made out of like Guatemalan patterns or whatever. I thought that was I love shit like that. I love how they just take like a lot of the same shapes and silhouettes and symbols and then just sort of change them and put them in variations. Yeah, I just fucking come all over myself just seeing all that shit.
But when that stuff is like bleeds into these movies, what do you think of it? I mean, like it's
does it bring me back to Earth?
Does it? Is that what it does?
Well,
I find it a little jarring sometimes.
I mean, what makes fantasy successful is it's just enough in the real world and just enough of it is familiar and just enough of it is exotic that you can play in the middle. If it's too out there, you can't relate to it, and if it's too grounded, then it's not fantasy. So, I mean, it's like I read all those art of books. They're brilliant. It was too expensive to buy, but they always talk about how they come to their ideas and their designs, and what everything is borrowed and reappropriated and copy pasted and switched and everything. I mean, I love that feather shield thing she had. It looked great, and I just like I said, it looks like a leather stormtrooper, or just like if Native Americans had stormtrooper helmets. It seemed new, and
and I like the fight scene on the conveyance. I mean, I like
the voice was great too.
Yeah, the voice was great. Yeah,
and how they don't give away it's a girl. Now, does
this and the twist that they're pirates and marauders and killers, and they turn out to be freedom fighters.
Well, also that's how a criminal is going to look at them.
Yeah,
he can't see people as anything other than criminals because he's just such a cynical opportunist. He doesn't really understand the idea that somebody might actually be fighting for some sort of cause. He doesn't believe in that, or it just doesn't cross his mind. Now,
and also it's an advance on I mean, the Ewoks. And the Ewoks are like the earliest example of that influence or that being deposited into Star Wars.
That sort of idea of like the ragtag, technologically disadvantaged people that have right on their side.
Yeah.
But what was now here's what was something interesting about, like, we're getting more women in these movies, which I think is great, and this is the first time
playing and in decisive roles important.
Important roles.
Last Jedi does that well. The strength of
now this movie almost passes the Bechdel test. Where two women, you know what that is, right? For this, it's a guide to how feminist the movie is. It's like two women have a conversation that doesn't. Now they almost passes because they're talking about Han, when it's like
so it doesn't pass.
But it's not in a romantic sense. So maybe it's just about the plot. Like
remind me the moment.
He's going to try to help you. And they have that little conversation.
Right.
But I don't remember exactly what else, but they're going to try to help you, and that kind of worked. And also it was interesting how this is the first time you've ever seen any sort of standoff between two factions, as far as I can remember, between any people fighting in Star Wars, there was a woman on both sides. And this is the one case where they're like, why don't we just talk it out?
Yeah.
You know, like, can we come up with a situation that involves less killing? She takes her helmet off and she's like, I need a drink. And she explains why, you know, and it's just like they try to mediate
But
that.
they don't have time because Dryden Voss is going to be there any minute, and they've already said that, established that fact. And is Kira the type to say, can we come up with a compromise that doesn't involve so much killing? I mean,
I got a little lost in Kira's motives toward the end, you know, and that's one thing that I really think. I think in a lot of ways the characters sort of fall apart at the end, but I don't want to get to that yet. But, you know, because, well, that's like the final point I wanted to make. But, let's just go through this.
But staying with Empress Nest for a minute, then their MO is to snake the hall, as Rio says, they're going to snake it out from under them, and they do that early in the movie, and then Weasel plants the tracking device, and Empress Nest says, I think erroneously, they'll bring it to us. That they're not going to bring it to you. You're going to have to go get it. But what about that? What about, okay, so Empress Nest has right on her side, that crew has right on their side, but what about that morality, that they're not going to do the dangerous work, and that they're going to steal it? You know, and given that, wasn't there a way to wouldn't there be a way to compromise? I mean, wouldn't there be a way to, like, come together and, like, I don't know.
Yeah, like, why couldn't they, could they just, like, okay, maybe, like, Empress Nest had the upper hand, you know, with the muscle.
Right, like, we're going to leave you enough to be whole with Voss, with Crimson Dawn, but we're going to take, you know, what we want, what we need, you know, while still leaving you enough. Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, that's a little vague how it's just sort of like this zero-sum game. And also, it's like, is Beckett the only game in town to get this shit? I mean, he's like the famous crook that's trying to steal coaxium, and they need the coaxium really bad, so they just have to sort of know they can score off him.
Or maybe, like they were saying about, they always seem to know where he's going to be, so it's like...
that's a thing that's not answered, because Beckett says to Val, my guy Voss has the intel, and then it comes up again.
Is it Voss's intel, or is it someone else's intel?
In Voss's office, there's a mention to it. There's a reference to it. He says he says to Voss, he says, I don't remember the line of dialogue, but he says, I was the only one that was supposed to know about this, or something like that. And Voss goes straight to test me. Test me one more time. He basically bypasses reason conversation and threatens him. And it doesn't resolve or answer the question.
Well, she says after that, it doesn't matter why you don't have it. Yeah. But does that mean, is he testing me like, don't question my intel, or is more just like, I don't want to hear your fucking excuses?
I think it's that. I think it's that, but it's a neat way of bypassing the question of how did Empress Nest find out, and why would Voss... I mean, Voss has no reason to share that with
and
him.
Why didn't they just kill Empress Nest before? I mean, obviously this has been an ongoing problem.
Right, but and Empress Nest is not part of the syndicates.
No, and then at the end of the day, these are all just plot contrivances. So there probably isn't. We're looking for answers that aren't there. That's why they must have people that they pay to come up with this shit later when they write the troubleshoot all this shit like that. What did you think of Dryden Voss as a character?
I loved him. I thought he was great.
Is that the same guy that plays the Vision in Avengers?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't see it. It's Paul Bettany.
Okay.
He's,
he was pretty good.
Actor. He was in what is he? What he's been in? A lot of stuff. Then lives in Brooklyn.
Really?
Yeah. Used to see him, and he's married to Jennifer Connelly. Or was
interesting.
No longer, but used to see him at restaurants around there. I don't think they do
loved his
anymore.
Cape, that weird half like tunic cape thing.
I thought he was menacing and focused, and I liked him a lot as a villain. And I know that he was a pinch. It
was supposed to be Michael K. Lewis, which
I
would have loved to have seen that too.
And that exists. Those tape, and all of that was filmed, and they said it's in the vault, and nobody's ever going to see it. I mean, Williams has said in an interview that, like, it's locked up, and like he's remorseful about the fact that like, he did this work
sucks,
and couldn't finish
That's
it out,
disappointing.
and it's like. Because what are they going to do? They're not going to erase it or destroy it, but
No,
they can't release it either.
Who knows what will happen in 20 years from now when they're trying to fucking.
So that would have been interesting, and it was unfortunate. But Bettany was.
I remember
really
when in 97, 98 they put out that fucking CD-ROM that had all the canteen, the first take of the cantina. Because they reshot the whole cantina scene, and then they finally released like the first take of it. It's terrible, but it's fascinating just as a document to see.
And since we're talking about Voss and now cantinas, his yacht,
I love that.
I loved it. I mean, the ship was cool and the scene was cool, and all of the aliens that were in there. I thought that was like the best version of that. Going back to New Hope,
Cantina riffs.
Cantina stuff. So like it was better than like miles better than Canto Bite, which I hated.
But I mean, it was trying to do the same thing as Canto Bite because like there's been a few like Cantina redos. There's the bar in episode 2, which was a disaster. That was so bad. Yeah. There was no music.
I don't remember it.
There was why did they not have any fucking music in that in that fucking sort of techno-y looking space? Fuck you. Then the next attempt was Jabba's Palace, which is great. It's the same as the Mos Eisley Cantina in a lot of ways. A lot of the same type of creatures. Then there's Maz's Castle, which
is not.
It's okay, but it's still playing in this is the seedy underworld. These are like criminals and crooks. Yeah. Then when you get to Canto Bite, it's like now it's the rich people. They're still scum. It's still a hive of scum and villainy, but it's rich. And I didn't. The story of Canto Bite was stupid, but I didn't mind the visualization of it. I thought some of those creatures were cool.
The creatures were cool, but like the little creature with the ears that shoves the coins into the BB-8.
That was very creepy.
And the Master Codebreaker, and that's another instance of nomenclature. Find the Master Codebreaker.
That's his name.
That's terrible.
That's terrible.
And the actor and the costume and it was terrible.
It was pretty dumb.
And the maitre d' or whatever he was, the major domo of the casino with the shitty southern accent.
Oh God, yeah.
And the police there. I just hate. I really, it was a device that introduced them to Benicio del Toro's character, the thief, who was badly served in that role. But it enabled, it enabled the betrayal that led to the final scene on the salt plant.
Wherever the fuck they were.
But Canto Bite, I hate.
But the thing is, the penthouse party.
Yeah.
Was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that was another attempt to show the rich or the elite.
Yeah.
And like in this book, it's great because they talk about
criminal class. Right?
Yeah, but it's also like a lot of hangers-on and hipsters, and people just want to be.
And the singer was great, and the fish.
It's funny because the backstory of those two characters, they're saying that he is a washed-up, like classic crooner from like the old Republic. And she's like the hot new thing, and Dryden Voss put them together. So in a way, it's like a corollary between. He's like a nostalgia act, the thing in the jar, and it's like it's almost a parallel of like Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga, type of thing. Yeah, it was one of those type of things, and I love details
and
like
they
that.
do like a Brazilian jazz.
Yeah,
thing,
I mean, I would love to see offshoot movies where it isn't about life and death and war, just like show me a behind the music documentary about that guy.
That's awesome. Yeah,
I would love to see more about. Cool. I want to hear the music. I want to know who the musicians are. Cool. I want to see like a
documentary on VH1.
Yeah, or like a Star Wars Spinal Tap, something like that would be fucking awesome. Eventually they'll get it there. They'll get there. But I thought all the shit in his office was cool.
Yeah.
There was like all kinds of throwbacks. The Mandalorian armor. They had the idol from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
The Mandalorian armor. Yeah, I saw that, and it's like you really just see a silhouette.
Yeah.
Of it, It's like Boba Fett, but you don't. Really
but it's not. It's red, and it has this leather shit on it.
And a crystal skull.
But that's not the crystal skull. That skull is from. Is it from Han Solo at Star's End?
Oh,
one of those three. It's either
The Lost Legacy.
Yeah, one of those. It was the MacGuffin in one of those books, and somehow he has it. There's a lot of cool shit in there. I love that. I love the food when he's eating that weird shellfish.
And he's the only one that eats in this movie. Am I wrong about that?
Maybe. You don't see people eat very much at all.
Yeah, I mean, Chewbacca drinks, and I'm trying to think of other. Yeah, you don't see many.
You don't see too much food in that.
You do. I mean, when you do, it has been iconic. I mean, Aunt Beru's pancakes and blue milk.
Yeah. And there's a couple of scenes where she throws those two. She throws like a bok choy and like a falafel ball or something in the pot, and that's it. But I just thought that was cool. But that was interesting. Just he's that type of gangster, where, he's into luxury and the finest things, an art collector.
Yeah, he's an Epicurean.
And he wants to present himself. He wants to be friends with people. It seems.
But he's a madman. He's a sociopath.
He's a sociopath, but he's one of those type of guys that like puts on this veneer of friendliness. He was like, if you fail me again, we'll be out of options.
We'll be out of options.
I'll kill you. But it was like, I'm getting all worked up. I mean, it's a
party, right?
That must be so maddening to have to be that guy.
Yeah.
But then also when he freaks out, it's like, tell me what to do. It's like, what's going on with him? Like, what sort of person is he? That,
that's where, I guess the
insecure.
idea is that, he slips or lets his desperation or whatever it is show, and that was the moment that I questioned his character.
Why?
Because, I didn't believe that he would handle that moment that way. Okay, he's on a short fuse and is explosive, but he seemed helpless there. And was that enough to make that moment enough to make him helpless, especially since he didn't see or know exactly what was going on? He would have been cool enough to ride it out a minute longer.
I don't think so. He seemed to me like the type of guy that was really struggling to hold it all together. Mm-hmm. I got the sense that maybe...
We never saw him interact with Maul, so...
Right.
We don't know what the pressures
he seemed to me like he would have preferred to just have fun.
Yeah.
And that he didn't necessarily seem like he liked to be the asshole. He had to be, but he didn't seem like he liked it, or it just seemed like the type of guy that has to. He's like
a sadist. I thought.
Yeah, maybe I don't know.
Kills the regional governor, and
and then just sort of laughs it off.
Yeah. And how about the serving the waitress that serves him without the top of the head? That was freaky. Right? It just has a visor.
What happened? That's something that they created in Rogue One. I forgot what they called it.
It looks like something from the 70s.
It doesn't appear in Rogue One except somewhere in the periphery, but it's in the Rogue One visual guide. Uh-huh. And it's a type of slave that exists in the galaxy where they just take the brain and replace it with this computer disc.
If anything, visually in that movie or any of these movies was going to give me nightmares. That was
fucking freaky. But I love that idea though. And it just goes to show what a fucking unjust galaxy it is. That just that's
barbaric.
You would go to a party and hang out with a guy that employs that monstrosity. This just dehumanized person. It's just what the fuck. What a fucking awful place. But this was another thing that I thought didn't make any sense. When they're sitting there and they're trying to come up with where to get the rest of the fucking coaxium, and they're throwing all this shit out. They mentioned Scarif and all that stuff. And he's like, what about unrefined, whatever. And then he was like, I can't rip off the Pikes, we have a loose alliance. And he's like, but the Pikes don't know we're working for him. And he's like, that's some revelation. Yeah, what the fuck? Duh. That's why you have Beckett doing your dirty work in the first place.
It may have, yes, and I picked up on that, but it may have been him, playing it out,
playing it out,
like he would have been just as happy to kill him. He would have been just as happy to kill him, or being given a viable reason not to.
Maybe he really thinks it's going to work. I don't know. And I mean, it's I guess you also think master criminals are always looking at how to best max, how in any operation, it's not just for one reason. It was also an opportunity to test Kira. So there's always more to it than just that, And maybe he did want to privately stick it to the Pikes, but he couldn't do it overtly. But it was an opportunity to undermine a competitor.
Do we know anything about the Pikes? I don't know anything about the Pikes. They talk about the Hutts and
a little bit. The Pikes appear for the first time in Clone Wars. They actually Maul is back. We could talk about his revelation, but
I've read up about it.
But he they show in the Clone Wars the beginning of him trying to consolidate his crime syndicate friends, and he has some dealings with the Pikes. I think they're cool. I love the way that guy looked. He was so weird with the snot dripping.
Which one?
The guy with the light. The guy on Kessel.
On Kessel. Okay.
Like I forgot.
He's a Pike.
Yeah, he's a Pike. Okay. And he's allergic to the air on Kessel. That's why all that snot is coming out of his thing. It's mucus. Yeah, I love that fucking thing. It's so preposterous, but it just looks. it looks really.
And when Kira
really
kills him, and L3 is like, whoa.
And she used the.
Never seen that.
Yeah, that was great. She's what is it? Tetris Kasi, that kung fu.
Yeah.
That's from that old video game.
Is that what it's
from?
I was wondering if that
game,
was used or referenced, and I assume that's what they're doing when they fight at the end.
Yeah, it's like a martial art in the Star Wars universe, and it comes from a video game from the 90s. Yeah, something like that, which was pretty cool. Okay.
All right.
Then we meet Lando Calrissian. I thought he fucking nailed it. He was perfect. Even like, well, how did I know she was an Imperial spy? I thought she loved me. He sounded just like Billy D. Williams. He fucking nailed it. He's so charismatic. He was fucking great. I thought. Did you?
Yeah, no, I loved him. I did like him. I didn't like some of his lines, some of his dialogue.
Like
I didn't
which
like Yoo-hoo.
Yoo-hoo.
Yeah. That was pretty much biggest.
You killed RC.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And L3 let go of the mean man's face. I didn't like the kind of like juvenile things. I don't know.
Maybe.
Juvenile touches. But yeah.
You read that stuff about him being pansexual?
No.
There was somebody put it out that Lando, I think Disney said that they hinted that Lando Calrissian is pansexual, which people think means bisexual, which it doesn't just mean that. It means you'll fuck anything.
Right.
You know,
any
and
race,
they suggest that
any
because when he calls Han adorable.
Yeah.
Says you're adorable.
Yeah.
You know, which was interesting. Like, I love how they just sort of hint at it and then never go anywhere with it.
Yeah.
And just the idea that he did have some sort of romance with a droid,
right.
You know, suggests that he would.
Okay, but so what about that? Because here's a woke movie that sexualizes the black characters, or at least Lando, and I would say that L3 is a black, even though she's got a white woman's voice, English woman's
black
voice.
Character?
Yeah.
How can you say that?
Because she's hot. Because of the way she walks.
Her big ass.
Yeah, the high-assed, hot with rolling hips. And
wow.
And
yeah.
So maybe I'm out on a limb, but I thought that there was an opportunity. There's potential there to, like, I don't know, read them the riot act on that, because like he's. You know,
but
he's the most
sexualized
like
that.
character.
He was already like that.
Well,
in Star Wars.
because it harkens back to his roots as a blaxploitation character. I think,
right.
You know.
I mean, I always thought
Billy
that
D. Williams,
yeah.
his association with that, you know, his participation in that, or, you know, and
Lando Calrissian is Billy D. Williams. It's like anybody could have played that role. Like, for the most part, except for a little bit of his like transformation at the end, Lando Calrissian is a plot device. He's not really a character. He's just somebody that's there to advance the story of the protagonist, and anybody could have played it in any way and it wouldn't have mattered. Yeah. It was just because it was Billy D. Williams, he had that flavor and that way.
Well, he's the sole racial character.
Yeah, but he's also just a sexualized person in general. It wasn't because he's black. It's because he's Billy D. Williams. And I don't think there was anything more to it than that. They just carried it forward. And also, wouldn't you be sexual if you were that guy? If you had those clothes and that face and that money and that fly ass ship with the bed and the wet bar?
Danny Glover's, persona and not Danny Glover.
Donald
Glover's in it. And then they play it up the way Kira is puffing him up, like building him up, and then talks about his prodigious. Okay, I got it. But what was she going to say? I think she was going to say cape collection.
Right. Or cock.
Yeah.
Either one. What are they clipping? That was another cock reference. But remember, it was like, we're going to have them clipped.
Right.
What are they clipping?
Right.
That was pretty funny. But
okay, and since we're on this subject now, can we? And I want to use this to talk about Lord and Miller, maybe, or at least it's my. Those are the
directors that got fired.
Yeah, and they get an executive producer credit at the end of
what's
this movie.
What's your pet theory?
And Ron Howard took over from them after they were fired, and contractually, in order to get a sole directing credit, Ron Howard had to shoot 70% of the movie, but much of the movie was already shot before he got there, so they had to do a lot of reshoots.
Probably some of them might have been unnecessary.
Yeah, some of them might have been unnecessary, and it was probably a lot. I mean, it might have been a lot of space stuff and like not necessarily actor-driven stuff. I don't know how they make that up, but they were fired because it's all
improvising.
It was all very shielded the way it's talked about, and it's euphemistic. They were improvising on the set, and it was taking too long. And the tone, they didn't get the tone right. They were like off tone. And so there's one moment, there's one scene and one shot where L3 is cutting through the gate to get to the Millennium Falcon. So you say it looks like she's taking a piss. She's sawing through the gate, and I think it looks like she's humping it. Like she's like rocking up and down. There's like one quick shot of her like sort of going up and down, and immediately prior to that shot, Lando says, or she tells them, look away, and Lando says, indulge her, because she doesn't want to be seen, because she's be embarrassed to be seen. And then there's that side shot of her cutting through the gate where she kind of pivots a little bit, and then there's him saying indulge her, and they look away, and then there's a back shot where she's just static in front of the gate cutting through it. So I surmise, pure speculation, that it was
so much more sexual motion,
sexually explicit motion, and that they shot that, and not that is the sole reason that they were fired, but that was.
You think they were sexing it up too much?
Yeah, that's what they mean when they say like they were on tone, that they were on point with the tone. They were like improvising. They were probably doing lewd jokes, and they were disrespecting the material,
right.
and because that looks like an awkward after shot that's edited in. That's like it's an unnatural looking shot where she's just static behind. And what is the significance of that joke then? Look away. If it's not,
yeah, she's not doing anything particularly weird.
Yeah,
I thought that was more like she was pee shy or something like that, but. I don't know. Maybe
like in order to saw through it, to cut through it, she would have had to
do something that looks embarrassing.
Yeah, look like she's fucking.
And it was a crude joke, It makes sense. I guess someday the truth will come out, But I thought that was probably one of the more explicit conversations about sex and relationships in almost all the movies when she's in the cockpit.
Yeah.
Talking about...
Yeah, that's a great scene.
Yeah, it's just like, sometimes I think, but no.
Yeah.
How does that even work? It works. And it's like, it's my back. Funny. You're going to have to do that thing again later.
Yeah.
I loved all that shit.
No, it was all good.
And
it was all funny, it was all true, and,
The pathos of that when she dies, when he goes to pick her up and she just falls to pieces, and he's like, oh.
So that supports the whole pansexual thing.
Yeah, and then, he must have been the way he touched her mouth after she died. But you know what I did notice, which is funny about a lot of Star Wars movies, is like, people die, and in one scene they're upset, and then in the next scene they're fucking over it. When Obi-Wan dies, when Alderaan blows up, when fucking Han Solo dies, it's like they just get over it so fucking quick.
And Jedi, Last Jedi, really works with that, works with the important part of the plot is the sort of movement, the diminishment of the resistance, and how Poe takes too much. He's a hothead and a flyboy, and he takes risks, and there are consequences to those risks. People die.
A lot of people.
And it's a diminishment of their power and their forces, but it's a waste of life. And so I think Last Jedi sort of tackles that thematically, if not personally. I mean, I think Paige Tycho is called on to represent that, to sort of symbolize
it's like
that.
The one face on all
of that needless death or wasted people. But again, that happens, and yet it's, I would say it's handled lightly, but people
get over it pretty fucking fast.
Yeah, get over it.
Yeah, like Beckett, he buries his girlfriend and his best buddy,
right?
And then the next scene,
and it's only in this last viewing that I saw that he's actually kneeling in front of makeshift.
So there's nobody in those graves, I'm guessing. Well, no, he had his Rio's body.
Yeah.
Val.
I doubt that he even was able to salvage their body or would have salvaged their body.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I do like that. It would know that callback where they put L3 into the ship because C-3PO has all those interactions.
Where did your
It's the most peculiar dialect, meaning like your ship's kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
I love when they do stuff like that. That was really fucking clever.
And I like the idea that she's and L3 and then the droid from I don't remember his name, but from Rogue One, the mouthy.
K2SO.
Yeah. I think they're two of the best droids. In
it's just amazing how much they can make you care about a robot. Of course, they're only robots in appearance. Otherwise, they're just people.
Yeah, no, that's true. At the same time, I find myself, like you talked about L3's death scene and Lando kind of, the bond that he has with her, and yet part of me resists, like, the movie's insistence that we sort of participate or share in the emotional exchange between him and a hunk of metal. They're humanized by the actors that play them, and they have wit, and the script, and they have wit and stuff. But it's like, I don't know. It might just be my
They're all just riffs on C-3PO.
Yeah.
But I mean, C-3PO is preposterous. A robot would never behave that way.
No, and he's increasingly preposterous. I mean, he was a sympathetic character.
But just the idea that a robot would have a quirky personality, it really.
I mean, we're more prepared to like accept that or believe it now because AI seems closer than
Yeah, but that means it can figure out how to fucking play chess. Is it gonna have desires and wants and emotions and fears? And are we going to fall in love with our robots?
Well, I mean, don't you think that that's part of the discourse today, and that's in
I think we are so far away from that of even happening. I mean, do you watch Westworld?
No.
That gets into that whole thing, just like
and Her, the movie with
and Blade Runner too. It's just like we don't know yet what's going to happen, but I mean, Star Wars takes it to a whole different level of absurdity. But that's what it's fantasy; it's not science fiction. Right. That's why you can get away with it. I loved all the droids on Kessel, all those weird that was great. R2 units mashed up with the power droids and just like
and the taking off the restraining bolt and then like stomping on the control panels. And,
they look like the droids from Silent Running.
Yeah,
which is what R2D2 is influenced by. Those are all just like rejected designs for R2D2.
And that's where it feels like it's, I don't know, it feels like there's kinship with New Hope there, and it feels like that's where the humor, sort of the humor sensibility comes alive there, and just like the madcapness of it or the hijinks of it in a I don't know, in a successful way. And this movie feels the most like a comic book. It feels a lot like an Indiana Jones movie. And we talk about the central character again, and he doesn't have the persona or the personality of an Indiana Jones. He doesn't carry the movie that way, but it has the pacing and the like event, like the incidents of adventure.
It's also dumb. The fucking plot at Kessel. We're just gonna show up. Yeah. We're gonna bullshit our way in. Do something.
Well, they talk about a plan, and they make like they're on the Falcon.
We have no time to do anything except make this plan,
right?
And then there's no fucking plan.
Well, like they don't show us them. They never show us them.
They never have a plan.
Doping out the plan.
They don't have a plan.
But here they talk about a plan. They talk about a plan for Kessel.
It's the same plan that they always do. Pretend to be a prisoner.
Right.
Get in. Right. Cause a distraction. Expect everybody.
Don't improvise.
Yeah.
Don't deviate from the plan. Right. So you think they've got it mapped out.
Yeah.
And that's key for the plot too, because the key nugget of wisdom that Beckett had, it's part of the plot, and it's the thing that Beckett teaches or passes on to Han is that always anticipate your opponent and don't trust anybody, and that's like the kind of thing that's going to season him or make him cynical, but keep him ahead of the game.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem like the only plan was just go in there and expect everybody protecting the place to be completely
no, and they make it neat by saying like, this is the central control room, and it's why they can do so much. They can control so much.
But that whole thing about starting the starting the revolt.
Yeah,
that was improvised.
She wasn't supposed to do that.
And that came out of her character.
And
that's what made the whole thing work. Though.
It's what made the whole thing work, but it's also what triggered the Empire to their
let them know
their presence, and therefore they were pursued, and therefore he had to take the shortcut through the maelstrom.
I do want to just make a comment that I think whoever was designing some of the helmets, like in Kessel and even Enfys Nest people, was looking at fucking Ramel Z's characters. Also, I noticed some of the guys on Kessel were rejected designs for the Cloud Car pilots.
Okay.
They always do that. They go back to the old Macquarie shit and take discarded stuff and bring it back. I love that.
The security cameras were like the wet cameras where you have like a row of you have like 4x4 cameras in a rectangle.
Yeah, it was like the Death Star cameras. We got a new TIE fighter, the TIE Brute.
Is that in the Maelstrom?
Yeah, the one they had that little extra gun on the side. That was really fucking cool.
That was a good scene.
That was a great shot with the fucking thing. I didn't quite get what the fuck the Kessel... What?
Yeah, well, that comes down to... Okay.
We understand now why it's measured in distance, not
It's
time.
Distance?
Yeah, parsec is a distance.
Yeah. But they did it by cheating. By going through the Maelstrom rather than going through the channel.
The channel, yeah. That was all totally weird. It was. I mean,
and the thing is, like, that becomes the stuff of legend, and yet nobody here really acknowledges it or cares. I mean, he says at the end he says to one of the refiners on Savarine, we just made the Kessel run 12 parsecs, and the guy's indifferent.
Yeah.
So the only way that like it lives on to become a story that other people hear about is through him.
Yeah, because he just keeps bragging. It doesn't even. It was more like 12.5 or whatever.
Yeah,
and rounds down.
Now if you round down.
I mean, I thought that was great when with the. I just one more detail. I do like the little cameo of the skiff guard outfit, like that Lando's Jabba the Hutt disguise. That was just on the Falcon.
Yeah.
It's just
Tool.
Yeah.
Wait out here,
Tool. That was,
try not to get into any trouble.
Yeah, I just loved seeing that. That was pretty. That was pretty awesome.
That was smart. And the Holo chessboard. Okay, so we can expect that would be in it. This is the first. I mean, not the first time I noticed. You wouldn't notice before now, but the Lady Proxima character is one of the characters on the Holo chessboard.
Right.
And it's a Corellian ship, and Lady Proxima's on Corellia. So.
Well, I didn't really think about that.
And so what I don't remember or know is she is the Lady Proxima race, species, whatever creature, on the holoboard in New Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's exactly the same.
So that's where they got it.
When are they going to make that chess set in real life? They never made figures of those things, as far as I know.
I mean, that one creature, the biggest one, is kind of like a rancor, but isn't.
He has the vest.
Yeah.
He's the one that grabs the guy whose shoulders or his neck or his top of his head.
And of course, Chewbacca does not rip Beckett's arms from his sockets.
When he loses. He does do that.
Loses, but
that's true. I noticed that. It was a distinction. You would think he would have. You'd think it's a minor distinction.
I think they realize. I mean, I think they recognized the fact that they weren't justifying the line there. They couldn't because it was a major character, and so they had
that would have been a weird way to take him out.
And that's so horrifying. I mean, that we talk about people getting shot and emoting over people's passing, but then casual characters, no non-characters, stormtroopers and slave guards get killed indiscriminately.
They have families.
in horrifying ways. Like, imagine having your arms ripped off simultaneously,
and you're just some schmuck working on Kessel.
When he picks him up,
that guy might have been a slave.
Flips him over and smashes his head against the ground and breaks his neck. Or in Last Jedi, when what's the name of the salt planet?
Crate.
I was going to say Scaife.
Scarif.
Yeah. Crate. When the Millennium Falcon comes in and Rey is at the cannon and she shoots through 3 TIE fighters at once and she says exuberantly, "I like this."
You just murdered
you're
3
a
people.
Jedi and you just murdered 3 people and you have no...
You're not supposed to take joy in it. Yeah, I guess. What was also a thing that was weird? The way the Falcon gets fucked up so fast. It was I liken that
And that's another reason why that has to be distance and not time, because they get waylaid at the maw, and that sucks up time.
Yeah.
Like if parsecs were a measure of time, then.
But I mean, is the time isn't just the time that they make up going through the Kessel Run? It's also how long maybe like the light speed. Like it can go from Kessel to Savareen a lot faster than another ship. But what I always think there's always something, like I always make a mistake when I think of like when you see the new Falcon and then you see how it is in A New Hope, you think, oh, after years and years of disuse, it gets fucked up. But no, it all happens at once. It's like the Emperor's face melting. Right. You know, it was just like, it's instant.
Yeah, except they have to replace the cannon. They have to replace the radar dish on top, because those things get blown off and ripped off respectively.
Yeah, it just
I like the escape hatch and the mandible notch.
Yeah, the mandible notch. Apparently, that notch can be used for a lot of things. Like in some of the design books, they show how the ship itself is modular. Like there's pieces can be taken out and put in. You can put a second cockpit on the side. All kinds of things can fit in the front. The back can be removed and the engine can be changed. It's just like it's a really cool ship. It was fun, but it's like it's like his droid that he loves died, and 2 scenes later he's like, that's a custom piece, and he's all freaked out about his fucking capes and everything like that.
That was
and then
funny.
There's
that was like the old humor, I thought. Mm-hmm. Custom piece is good.
And then there's the I hate you.
But I hate you because you fucked up my ship and you got my droid killed, and like there I felt like it was cumulative.
But then he also says I know.
Yeah.
So that was another inversion of a familiar line.
Right.
You know, which is they were patting themselves on the back when they came up with that with that line. You know what was interesting? That creature in space, I thought it was cool. It was weird looking, but the idea of sentient creatures or organic beings living in space.
They mentioned vacuum. L3 mentions vacuum breathing life forms in the Maelstrom.
What I read in one of these books, I forgot what it was, and they touch on this on the Rebels show, is that hyperspace travel is actually something that organic creatures were able to do before it was a technology. Like coaxium is related to organic material. Like there's creatures in Rebels, these like space whales that can go into travel through hyperspace. They can have a sort of organic hyperdrive, and somehow
coaxium is
extracted from them, or it's somehow. But the ability to travel through hyperspace was something that was evolved, and then was later adapted for technology. And I think that's fucking a fascinating idea.
Yeah, well, they don't talk about where coaxium comes from.
No,
here, and like it's in Kessel, but they didn't mine it. I mean, I presume.
Yeah, why was it there? How did they know it was there?
Because the main product of Kessel is spice, right?
Yeah, whatever the spice mines of Kessel, whatever the fuck that is.
And it's a heat. It's a fissure. It's a fissure vent where they store the coaxium.
This is preposterous, but. It was just, again, it's all just a device to make the thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's like that's the majority of the plot. Let's just what's up with Darth Maul? What did you think of that appearance? Does that work for you?
I mean, okay, so when I first saw it, as you know, I wasn't aware of the way the
Clone Wars and the
the way the character already has been resuscitated in the expanded universe. And so that was a hard, like I was like
probably gobsmacked by it.
I was gobsmacked by it, and I was kind of excited by it and thought that it was a brilliant move, but then I got caught up in like the calculation and trying to figure out how does that work time-wise, like was it through like mastery of the Force that he was able to pull himself together and survive that, like what did he, is it a reincarnation, is it a Force ghost, or so I didn't know, and I got hung up on that. And so obviously it's a Star Wars story, and it's backstory on a lot of stuff that that follows, that precedes and is supposed to follow. And so it's indelibly or inextricably linked with the Star Wars universe. But, I've talked about this before. There's still no Star Wars story that is completely removed from
it's all
the world
in some way.
of the Force and the Empire and the Skywalkers and the Solos and it's just sort of a separate story.
Mm-hmm.
So in as much as that's true, this is a freestanding story. I don't know. I thought that it was the one, for me, it was the one thing that relied on knowledge of the expanded universe that a casual audience would have missed and not been able to account for.
Right.
And as such is sort of a weakness or a flaw.
Right. And it's just like a dangling thing. It's like assuming that there's no follow-up movie. It's just like it's just there. It's just like we already know how he dies. They depict his end in the Rebel show. So it's just like here's just this sort of guy that just is shoehorned. This guy is shoehorned into the movie. There's not going to be a sequel to the movie that explores this, and you can't logically.
I assume that there is. I mean, I assume that there is a sequel, and that Maul will be in it, and that Han will face off with Kira.
No, but the thing is, it's like, where does Han, if Han has an encounter with Darth Maul, his whole ancient weapons and hokey religions line in New Hope doesn't make any sense anymore, because if he has to square off against a Sith Lord with a lightsaber who's a formidable opponent using the dark side of the Force,
we don't know.
And he witnesses that, then that belies everything that Han seems to stand for in A New Hope. So it just it's just getting a little close. It's getting a little close.
We've seen that before in the Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Raiders of the Lost Ark
and Temple of Doom, where in Raiders of the Lost Ark he doesn't believe in fucking hokey. I forgot what he calls it, supernatural shit or whatever.
Ancient religions.
No, that's Star Wars. I forgot the line in Indiana Jones, but then like a year prior, you just witnessed this outrageously supernatural thing. So. Whatever.
The Shankara stone?
Yeah, where he rips the guy's heart out. I mean, it's like... that's a whole other thing. The Raiders of the Lost Ark is so different than the other three movies.
Yeah.
In the way how it's so much more grounded, and this one outrageously supernatural thing happens that is perplexing, whereas in all the other movies it's sort of taken for granted that the supernatural is just everywhere. And all of his adventures have some sort of supernatural aspect to it. And it just doesn't quite feel as real. But I just don't understand. They're never going to make a movie that shows what happens to Kira and Maul and Hannah, and it just like it all feels like it's in the same neighborhood. It's like there's so few people in this galaxy. They all know each other. Beckett killed Aura Singh, and they know Bosk, and it just
Bosk. I like the reference to Bosk. I mean, I got the reference to Bosk. Let's say I don't know who Aura Singh is.
She's that bald chick from Phantom Menace in the pod race, where she's just sort of standing there. She's like red and white, and she has this big gun. She appeared in all the expanded universe, in the cartoons and stuff like that. She's like a bounty hunter or
she's
something.
She's not a Force.
No, she's just another villain. Okay. But it's just funny that they just shoehorned it in there and talked about her death. But okay, I think that's all the fucking like minutia to discuss. I feel at the end of the film, during that final confrontation, the main characters all do things that are just absolutely inexplicable to me, that almost undermine who they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. First of all, when Beckett reveals that he betrayed Han and he told Dryden Voss that the coaxium was fake, when he comes in, and then he's got the drop on everybody, and then he decides to take it.
Yeah, that I don't believe.
Why doesn't he just give it to Dryden Voss, get rid of Han, take the money, retire? Yeah. That was the plan. Yeah. Now all of a sudden you just suddenly changed your mind?
The justification is that I'm also an entrepreneur, is what he says. And that's the script's effort or explanation to justify.
There's no reason. I mean, I understand it was important to move the plot forward, but it was just inconsistent. Like his whole mission the whole time was to get to that point, and now suddenly,
because that's how you would play it out. That's what you would expect, and that would be fine, right? That would be fine. That would work. He would Voss would let him live, would pay him. They would kill Han, presumably kill Kira, and he would get away, right? I mean, Beckett would
get away and
have a payday,
So it doesn't make. I just thought that was weird. I thought that was just that was not. He wouldn't have done that.
I mean, I like that he kills the 2 guards and says he's thinking and wants to be the only guy holding a blaster while he does it. But
it didn't.
Already that decision is made at that
He
point.
made such a point of saying how you don't want to make an enemy of Dryden Voss. He should have killed him then. He should have killed Dryden Voss.
And not have a price on your head.
Yeah, doesn't make any fucking sense at all. And then...
And the Crimson Dawn comes after you with a they have a hired army.
It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't really matter, but I didn't get that.
It's an inconsistency.
But he's not even a character. He's a plot device. Han is the character. What I don't understand is, first of all, is this the guy we meet in episode 4? Because I'm imagining, all these events are supposed to take him and forge him into this cynical mercenary. But in this movie, he does the right thing in almost every situation. He's always sacrifices for other people. He's the good guy. Right. He goes and he tries to convince Kira that he's a terrible person.
Right.
But he's done absolutely nothing terrible the whole time. He's only looked out for people and tried to help and put other people ahead of him. And when he had the opportunity to get a fucking major payday off the coaxium, he gives it all of it to Enfys Nest. But then doesn't join the cause, and it's just why is he so why would he give up all the money? What happened to him between this and A New Hope? Because he's a callous asshole when he's like, so the movie, you got your reward and you're just leaving now, right? Yeah, that's right.
So the movie sets about to kind of so it's an origin story, and how did he become the guy that we meet in New Hope? And so in the way that the prequels were supposed to be an origin story for Darth Vader, and we're supposed to see, start with him as an innocent child, a naif, and learn how he becomes, what his motivations are, and his, the his emotional drivers are that bring him to that point. This, maybe less heavy-handedly, is supposed to do the same. So I would say, and I'm going to argue against it in a minute, but I would say that it starts with him as relatively innocent, that he's a bit of a clean slate, and the things that happen over the course of this movie and movies that follow, because this is a franchise, are what shape him and make him that character. And for that reason, I would expect and require a sequel or two where he does, in fact, face off with Kira and have to kill her. And maybe that's too schematic and predictable, but they'll work with it. They'll make something out of that in order for him to get there. Okay, so that's what it would take, and I think it's cynical as for Disney, but it's their nature to do that over 3 movies instead of do it in 1, But also, he grew up on Corellia as a runaway and lived in this system for years, as a kid. He would have been hardened already. He would have been,
that's why I don't understand why he just gives up the bounty so easily. Because Crimson Dawn is evil, and they cut out people's tongues so we can't help them. But you didn't have to give it all to them. You could have taken half, or you could have done something, or just...
he's...
I don't know. It seemed weird to me.
To the very end,
he was not a mercenary.
To the very end, he's clinging to the hope and belief that he and Kira are going to be together. That really is...
I think that's the main thing.
His driving motivation throughout this movie. And to the very end, he believes it.
And maybe
there's a moment in the elevator before the door closes where he doubts or questions her, when she's lying to him. But
maybe also he does learn doing the right thing doesn't pay. He did the right thing in this movie. He did the moral thing, and he didn't get his reward.
And it was only after he did the right thing that he realized that she had.
Yeah, and he had to kill his friend, and I guess I can see it. The thing about him giving away the coaxial confused me, but I guess you're right.
And not joining.
You're right.
That is okay.
So let me go find another criminal to work for.
Right.
You know, it's like, it was almost like, is he repudiating the criminal life or not? Like, he already decided, like, I'm in this. Right. You know, I'm going to, like, he didn't even have to go with Beckett. You know, he could have just said, fuck this, that's your problem, I'm out of here, I'm leaving. Right. But no, he's going to tie his fate to this guy out of some sort of moral responsibility, you know, and then it doesn't, none of his good intentions pay off. I guess in that regard, I can see it.
And also, does he want Kira to think that he's a terrible person, or does he want Kira to think that he is a good person, a good guy?
I don't know. I mean, but she seems to think so, and does he buckle at that description? Because it's like, he doesn't seem to like being called the good guy, but everything he does is the actions of a good guy, a rakish good guy.
And she says, I'm probably the only person in the galaxy who knows who you really are. But then also throughout is the riff that you don't know who she is. You don't, right. You know, you don't realize who she is. And she says at the end, you know, I don't, you know, he says I mean, you don't know everything.
But I mean, she takes a major fucking hit for him, though. Because Kira.
Yes.
Because
she lies to Maul.
She lies to Maul. She kills Dryden Voss.
Yeah.
And she just lets her, she's going
so what's
deeper
her motivation?
In now. I don't know.
Fear? Hunger for power?
I don't really know.
I mean, often what she shows on her face seems to be two minds, right? You know, I mean, she seems to have misgiving about it. Well, and have misgiving about it, and like she's always swallowing and showing like reluctance or fear, hesitation on her face.
Or like she doesn't want to tell him about what she's been up to.
Yeah, so there's complexity there, which I appreciate. But it is also
we never get to know as the audience, and it's like frustrating.
Because after Maul says we're going to be working much more closely together, she is like hesitant over that, and like she knows what she just sort of committed herself.
She kind of sacrificed herself, so Han can get away. There. But would she do that?
But did she what would be the consequences if she hadn't? What if she had? Because I believe her. When they're in Lando's cape room and she says, I want to hear all about, I want to hear what's happened to you, and I want to tell you what's happened to me, and they kiss, and I believe that she wants to be with him, but she knows that she can't.
He keeps getting interrupted kissing girls on the phone.
Yeah, sure, and that's riffed on. So I believe that she loves him, that she wants to be with him. So what would be the consequences of her after having killed Dryden, of her going with him? That Maul would hunt them down?
How would he even know? She could have just blown the ship up, and what was he going to do? How would he know? He's on Dathomir. I mean, it doesn't...
Right.
Like, she doesn't... It seems like, does she...
And she gives him a partial explanation.
Does she still have aspirations to be a player in Crimson Dawn? Yeah, does she still...
She seems to, but she also is afraid, is trepidatious about that.
But I mean, it seems like a way out for her. She could just say... She could just blow the ship up, or just, not... Just disappear.
I mean, I would say, just in terms of what the story demands, what we are left to think or believe about her is that she has, though she is conflicted, and the trilogies and the stories are filled with conflicted characters, that she has emotional attachment to him. She wants more, that she wants power, she wants ultimate freedom, and that's only arrived at through the acquisition of power. And
she couldn't somehow get the coaxium back? I guess not, right? That his army got wiped out, or did Enfys take out Dryden's security force?
Yeah, they didn't kill them all, but they had them pinned down, right? I mean,
well, she knows. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like she just left without the goods. She could have.
Well, the coaxium was on the ship.
No, Enfys took the coaxium.
No, because Han brought the coaxium into.
No, but then Beckett left with it.
Oh, right.
And then he took it back from him, and then gave it to Enfys.
Yeah, so she
and
left.
Enfys gives him one vial.
Yeah, so she's basically taking a chance by telling Maul that Voss was killed, and Beckett stole the coaxium, and I wasn't there and didn't see it. and that's the end of the story. And now I'm coming to you.
And Maul buys that. Why weren't you there?
Yeah.
Where the fuck were you?
Yeah, where were you?
What were you doing? It doesn't.
Yeah, of course, it doesn't. It doesn't come.
And is she really loves Han that much that she's gonna like make her life that more difficult for herself?
Again, she's taking a deep breath because she knows she's in for something bigger than anything that she's come up against, and is girding herself, steeling herself to do it. And I believe that about her character. She's a survivor, as Beckett tells Han at the end.
It doesn't seem like that was what a survivor would do. I don't know. My fear is that they're never really going to satisfactorily answer any of these questions. But go read the fucking comic book.
Yeah. I mean, if she goes to Dathomir and becomes an apprentice to Maul, then what? Then she becomes a Sith apprentice? I mean, Maul's
I don't think he's really doing Sith shit anymore.
But he's still using the Force.
I mean, at the end of the day, spoilers if you haven't watched Rebels, his only really obsession is to get revenge on Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he fails at that.
And he dies, right?
He dies on Tatooine.
But Kira's not in those stories.
Doesn't appear in those stories.
But they will now retroactively shoehorn her into those stories, and she has to acquire some skills. She's already got, what's the name of the martial art that she uses? She's already got that.
Or whatever.
Yeah. So I assume that she becomes adept with a lightsaber.
Come on, I don't need that. I don't need that. It's like...
And that was the only lightsaber in the movie. And the only Force instance of Force use.
They just couldn't leave it alone.
No.
They just couldn't leave it out. They had to put some...
There's reference made throughout the course of the film of Voss's boss, and you wonder who it is. and the movie delivers at the end. What is this? Is this...
It's pot.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's this shit...
It was packaged.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is legal in certain parts of the world, and they have products now.
But it's 100%. There's no tobacco.
Yeah, no.
And that's like a pact.
Yeah.
With a filter.
It's just a paper filter. There's no cotton in there. I don't know. I don't think they're going to make a follow-up film to this. I would fucking suck that up like fucking...
What do you think they're going to do?
Fucking rails. I don't know. I hope they...
they're not going to... I mean, if they contracted him for 3 movies, they're not.
They do that stuff just in case. I mean, I think they're always being speculative and always hedging their bets, and they're always kind of worried about.
Sure, but like Star Wars when has it ever been a losing proposition? They've always expressed anxiety and doubt and concern, and it's always broken records. I guess
this one didn't, but it's just so weird.
But also, your expectations for an anthology movie should be lower. I mean, like Rogue One probably didn't either.
I don't remember. I think Rogue One had a good box office, but I don't know. I just wish they would. I wish they wouldn't just get cold feet because they had like a sort of a base hit, and it wasn't a fucking grand slam. It was a base hit.
Well, that speaks to, and this is my bigger, this is like where I'm a jaded, almost 50-year-old, and like Star Wars today is a multi-billion-dollar entertainment franchise. It's not, it's not
the mythology.
Yeah, the modern mythology it was with the earliest movies, and all of that stuff can only be retread so many times before it like loses elasticity, and loses flavor, and now it's just permutations of
the same thing.
Yeah, and I'm loyal to Star Wars because it was meaningful for me as a kid, and I love it, and I still thrill to it on a primordial level. But I could give a shit about Avengers and about. I'm not interested in any.
I don't really care for all that stuff, to be honest. I see the Marvels movies. They're fun, but it's like they don't connect for me in the way Star Wars. And the thing is, I think Star Wars has so much potential that they have yet to tap. Like they're still playing it relatively safe. I would love to see something.
And it's Disney now, so they're going to.
I had an idea that I thought was quite clever.
I'm sure you did.
That I'd like to share with you, just because thinking like, what could you do with Star Wars if you were just gonna take it in a totally different direction? And it's just like,
well, the TV show, I think.
But the TV, I don't know what the subject matter is gonna be. It's probably just gonna be some adventure story with lots of blasters and lightsabers, and daring do and weird planets.
When did they say it takes place?
They haven't said anything.
No,
they did?
Yeah, they have. It takes place...
Is it between the trilogies?
It takes place... I have to... It'll come...
They have a new cartoon coming out called Resistance, which is going to be like a Dave Filoni type thing, and then there's like 2 new trilogies, and that's all. Are you good with this?
Yeah.
Or, okay. But like I had an idea that I think is more out there, and this is what I thought of after Anthony Bourdain died.
Yeah.
I'm
reading Kitchen Confidential right now, by the way.
It's some heavy shit, right?
My head. Yeah.
Why? How so?
Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, it's fun. It's a good read. It's not a great book, but it gives you some insight into him, into his personality.
I didn't read. I read the article. I didn't read the book, but I mean, I just thought what my thinking was. It got me thinking about him after he died, and also the movie had just come out. I was saying, like, is there such a person in the Star Wars universe? Is there like an Anthony Bourdain in Star Wars? And could you make a show like No Reservations or Parts Unknown?
Yeah, well, I love the idea of the singer, the washed up singer and the ingenue singer, and like the behind the scenes.
What if you made like an in-world? That would be an in-world show. Meaning, this is something you could actually watch if you lived in the Star Wars galaxy.
Right.
This is, I mean, it's for us to consume as well, but it's a show within the world.
Right.
And then once you decide you're going to do that, you can come up with all kinds of shit like that looks into things that isn't about galactic conflicts and laser gun battles and struggles with good and evil, and you can just sort of relax and
drama,
not even a drama, no, but the guy, it would be a reality show where it's like, today, maybe he's a human, maybe he's an alien, whatever. He's a character, that has a specific voice, and who just every episode, today we're gonna go to Mon Calamari, and we're gonna eat their food, and we're gonna go to their shows, and I'm just gonna explore this planet and do it the way he did, but it all takes place within the Star Wars universe, and you can sort of spend time in these places without having to rush from planet to planet and solve all these giant things, and just have it be more just like, let's enjoy the fucking design, or contemplate the details of the world, and get to know all these aliens that we've seen on the periphery of these movies for so long. Actually sit down and spend time with them and talk to them and get to know them, and just go from planet to planet. Go to the Greedo planet, go to the Hammerhead. Would that be whack, or is that...
No, but I think you would have to do that. I don't think like that they're going to take that on and go and like
why?
Go into it at
I
that
think they're going to run out of fucking ideas at some point, aren't they?
They'll keep doing shows and movies of one kind or another. They probably
You're probably
won't
right.
Be
I wouldn't take that upon myself to do it.
That's like fan fiction that you're talking about, and like you can do
but
it.
I mean,
but
they do have like the books that have
and that's another. I mean, there's the books and comics and video games and like all.
I'm just saying they can change the fucking format. Like, I would watch a Star Wars movie that was like, but no, because Solo is flopping. They're either gonna, I don't know if they're gonna just ditch Star Wars, but at some point somebody in there is gonna be like, yo, we need to try something different. We're going to keep making Star Wars shit forever. Yeah. Like, I would watch a Star Wars movie that was just sort of like 3 vignettes, like a Woody Allen movie, where it was just like, maybe there's just like Manhattan or whatever, not Manhattan, like...
New York Stories,
where, you could just have these smaller films within a single film. And maybe they overlay to something.
Human drama that's like
But do you think people would want to see a Star Wars like
that? Really? I don't. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't or you wouldn't, but I think it's so niche an audience, and I it's like
what if you just said what if Woody Allen directed a Star Wars movie? Come on.
That would be awful.
Really?
He wouldn't do it, and he did. He directed Sleeper.
I don't know.
His
it's just
foray
you're right. It's just maybe I'm just navel gazing and just being.
I mean, look. It doesn't support that. It's like not what people go to Star Wars for, because there is that in the world, and the broad mentality that it appeals to, where the money is not that.
That would be good for like a web show or something.
Yeah, that's what it would be. It would be small, like what.
But the idea is it's supposed to be small.
Yeah, sure.
It's not supposed to be grand.
What's a good chamber drama, sci-fi chamber drama?
Star Trek?
No.
What do you consider a chamber drama, where it all takes place in one room?
Yeah, it's short. It takes Yeah, I mean that's the roots of it. But it takes place in a small group of characters, a compressed period of time. You know, a handful of locations.
Right.
It's more like a theater play,
right?
Like a stage play. So,
Star Trek.
No, I mean the original TV show.
Yeah.
But it has also escalated and grown bombastic.
The TV shows in Star Trek are way better than the movies. The movies, I mean, at least, and especially the contemporary movies, are trying to be like action space Star Wars.
Well,
things.
that's what they.
And
Everything
Star Trek is a fucking
that.
chamber drama.
Degraded to that.
You know, and I just.
It was conceived as one.
But the thing is, if Star Trek is going to try to do Star Wars, and to some degree it's successful, why can't Star Wars do Star Trek?
Yeah.
You know, I think it would translate totally.
Yeah,
I would love to see a story like that, you know, where it's like set in the Star Wars
universe. Look, they create great characters. There's just a
look at this book. Look at this fucking book and like all these people.
This book. Look, lipstick.
There's the Imperial officer.
Look, and it says lipstick shade deliberately flouts Imperial regulations. All right, see, so even like every little nuance.
That's a half an hour television show right there already.
Yeah, sure.
I would like to see a Star Wars show like a Star Wars Chronicles. Where it's like the Twilight Zone, where every episode it's an hour-long drama.
That's what I was going to say.
But everyone is at a different place, different time, different character. Yeah. You know, and it's like sort of...
That's an anthology
show. An anthology show.
You know, when Spielberg picked up the Twilight Zone again in the 80s.
But it doesn't have to be big and grand, you know. It can be quiet. It could be focused on one character. You know, it could be a simpler story. I think it would fucking totally fly.
Series, right?
It would totally fly. It would totally fucking fly.
And they can get in talent. They can rotate visiting, you know, have visiting
everybody
talent
in the universe would want a piece of that. Everyone in Hollywood. And you could go crazy with it. And it's not instead of the movies. It's in addition to.
But maybe it'll happen.
Maybe it'll happen. Well,
but the thing is, okay, so this is the other thing. It's like, are you like you're not? Would you write that?
Hell yeah,
you would
if they gave me the chance.
Right? Would you write it on your own and try to pitch it?
I don't know if it works that way. I don't think you could just go pitch a Star Wars show. Not all that shit comes from internally, and then they decide, you know, who the talent is going to be. But who knows? You know, I mean, I don't know the way things are going to play out. But anyway, I could sit here and just fucking ramble, but we've already been going for 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I think that's probably more than enough for anybody to have to fucking suffer through. Thanks, Fresh Ricky D.
Yeah.
Erik D, one of my oldest friends. Thanks you for coming on and giving
I bought some pictures. I was going through some papers and I found some old photos of us from back in the day.
Oh, you want to put this on Instagram? Okay, we'll put those on Instagram.
Yeah.